validation, now I validate myself. Building inner strength, putting doubt up on the shelf. No more unnecessary drama, no more wasted time. Climbing higher constantly, making my own climb. Standing on higher ground, where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds. Raising the bar, breaking ground. My network is my net worth. Choose your company wise. Surround yourself with eagles, not with sheep in disguise. Every interaction is a reflection of my brand. Quality over quantity, that's my personal command. Standing on higher ground, where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds. Raising the bar, breaking ground. Whoa. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision. Cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield. To mediocrity and chaos, I will never yield. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision. Cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield. To mediocrity and chaos, I will never yield. Standing on higher ground, where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds. Raising the bar, breaking ground. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision. Cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield. To mediocrity and chaos, I will never yield.
How you doing, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to This and That. I'm your host, Xander, where we're talking about this, that, and everything in between. Today we have gotten to a Friday night. Oh, look at that. Mikey's in quick. How you doing, Mikey? We're just getting started tonight. We have, a decent quantity of things going for us. This is a very interesting topic because one of the members of the membership had asked me about this a couple of weeks back, and I told him that I'd make a show about it. So today we're going to be talking about 7 instant hacks to stay calm when you're with somebody who is being ridiculous, someone who's not cooperating with the agenda, somebody who's making things difficult unnecessarily, and we're going to be giving you guys some information on how to work through that. Now, here on This and That, we go live 7 nights a week, and we do not let the sun rise without going live. And but even though we don't start on time, because we were like 15 minutes late today, we ask you guys to like and subscribe, and then also double check the membership. And we also recommend that you guys mash those reaction buttons while you're here, show support for the channel, because we got a lot of information going on for you. Over here on YouTube side of things, Francesco Corelio, hello. Good to see you on the show tonight. So we have Deep Karma. Happy 15th of August. Today is our National Independence Day, a time when we honor our history and look forward to a bright future. Sending you positive vibes and warm wishes from India. Now, special shout out to India and Bangladesh and Belarus and Belize and Kazakhstan. We got a lot of people watching our show from all over the place, but I really appreciate that from India. That is very interesting that to show support. I was not even thinking about today being Independence Day. Is anybody barbecuing today or popping firecrackers or, eating crackers or going to Cracker Barrel or anything to do with crackers for Independence Day? Because I completely forgot about Independence Day. I'm going to be honest with you. The average holiday to me seems like just another day, specifically because, I got so many things that I'm trying to accomplish, and in enjoying the fruits of my labors requires my labors to achieve the goals that I'm looking for first before I go and try to enjoy a historically defined national holiday. So, I do appreciate the reminder that today is Independence Day. I just wasn't prepared for it. Now, we go live 7 nights a week. We have different shows every night of the week. Sunday, we do questions and comments from the fans, questions about you guys to help you guys get things done for yourselves. We have Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, we talk about business and politics, where Monday, we talk about how politics negatively impacts your ability to make, save, and invest money. On Tuesdays, we talk about different ways to make money, save money, invest money, and budget money. Then on Wednesdays, we talk about different countries around the world that you guys can live and invest in. So, fellas, this is a lot of stuff. This is a male-driven podcast from the male's perspective. This is a lot of information that you guys can listen to and learn from and potentially improve yourselves with. And then on Wednesdays, we talk about different countries around the world that we can live in and potentially invest in. I already said that. Then we have Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Today being Friday, we talk about personal improvement, self-development, relationship topics, socializations, building your brand, raises, promotions, retirement, forced retirement, severance packages, termination, and then how to build your 20 and 30-year plan, because knowing where you want to be at in life is it requires you to build a direction, but you have to have a destination first, and then figuring out what you got to do today to accomplish that is going to be one of the biggest ways to meet lifelong goals. Michael says, Cracker Barrel in India, happy Independence Day for Britain. Well, that does make a lot of sense, buddy. It does make a lot of sense. So we haven't had many updates. I haven't seen many things change over the last couple of days, but we will be telling you guys what you guys need to do today. Because like I said, we're supposed to be talking about the 7 instant hacks to stay calm when you're dealing with people who are being ridiculous. And I know that I got some people that come on a podcast that are ridiculous, but we're talking about when you yourself on a daily basis are attempting to do business with or accomplish a task that involves another person, whether it's the person at the DMV, whether it's a cashier at a register, server at a restaurant, it could be a file clerk, it could be your boss, it could be a friend, family member, or your partner, or your kids, or anybody like that. When you're trying to accomplish something and you're having an interaction or discussion with that person, and that person is refusing to cooperate with your ability to achieve your goals, where they are the obstacle in achieving your goals, which is turning into what would otherwise be a verbal argument. You have to remember that there is another way to handle it. And I understand that getting pissed off to high heaven is the easiest thing to do. Yelling and cursing and threatening people, it's the easiest thing to do. And those of us, no matter how much patience we have, we do harbor a level of short-temperedness, especially when we feel like we're in the presence of stupidity, deliberate stupidity, not the accidental I didn't know. Because if they didn't know, we would have so much patience. If they were mentally incompetent, we would have so much patience. But when we're observing what we perceive to be a trifling behavior, deliberate ignorance, refusal to perform what would otherwise be a reasonable and simple task, we get frustrated really quickly, right? You have to maintain a level of civility. It's not so much being it, it's not much humility, because humility is recognizing that you are not the center of the universe in this scenario, and that you have to recognize that your place, your role, your position in this interaction is limited. And within the limitations of your capabilities, you must have humility to accept what is outside of your control, what is outside of your authority, and be able to function without resentment. That would be a level of humility. This is not that. This is a level, because it's not so much just being humble. It is about finding a way to nitrous purge your anger in the middle of a scenario without actually blowing your stack. That's the best way to uh, put it. Uh, Hello, Gavin. So you have Yo Gang. So here on This and That, we like to teach the young bucks how to behave more effectively and more professionally. So Gavin, it would be more appropriate and more respectful, because this is a no different podcast from the male's perspective. The majority of the podcast is men. Uh, your homies, you would socialize with them as, gang, or YN, or Unc or OG, or whatever the case may be. But in a professional setting such as this one, you would interact with the other men that you are supposed to be showing mutual respect to, with hello sir, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, or simply hi. But yo gang is a lower value dialogue, which in practice devalues your position in a group setting. Where if we were having this conversation in person, all of the men that are in this conversation, talking about money, talking about success, talking about business, talking about investments, would be looking at your arrival as a child walking into a man's conversation. And to prevent yourself from being misrepresented in a scenario where you would ultimately lose respect from the first two words that came out of your mouth, you should practice either hi, hello, or hello, sir, as the go-to whatever comes out of your mouth. Because if you were perceived you got to remember, first impressions is within the first 15 seconds. And more often than not, if we're meeting somebody who knows we're coming, it's the second impression, because they already researched us before we showed up. Your first impression, where your first encounter with them in person, for them to change their position on you from what they thought about you before they met you to what they think about you after they meet you, in the first 15 seconds, you can only say like 5 or 7 words. And when you're walking up, and inside of that first 15 seconds, you want to make sure that you are articulating yourself in a respectable fashion to show a level of mutual respect to the other men that you are talking to in the conversation. So while that's a common thing for you guys, and I'm not going to like really, bust your chops on it, I am going to tell you that walking into a conversation full of men saying yo gang is not what you do. That's what the kids do. The kids do that on the schoolyard. So if you're trying to make money, you walk up to somebody, yo, what's up, fam? Yo, what's saying? And ultimately, the other men in the group that would have spent money on your idea is willing to walk away now, because you are not carrying yourself with a level of professionalism. So I just wanted to give you that before we got started, so that you could kind of think about that as we go forward, because it is important for everyone to recognize that no matter how we decide to look when we leave the house, we are a walking business. We carry ourselves to a level of, this is part of when we talk about building our brand, building your brand, how people see, because anybody who has a biblical background, whether you admit it or not, your parents was dragging you to church until you was old enough to say, I don't want to go, right? We've experienced the Bible, we've experienced Sunday school, and we've experienced a story where they talk about Job under the tree and Jesus was watching him, how he was interacting with people. You have to take that into consideration. Just like Job under the tree. When you behave a certain way right now, other people are watching. You don't know that they're watching you. You're paying attention to the person that you're interacting with. But the people who see you interacting will judge you. That's their first encounter of you. Now, their second encounter of you is your first encounter of them. And in that of technology, the problem that we have is that our reputation will precede us, meaning that our reputation will get there first because they can Google us before they meet us, so that when they meet us, they have an idea of how we're going to behave. Now, if we have a compromising image online of which we're unable to take down, doing irresponsible things with our friends because we thought it was fun or funny, being in places we're not supposed to be because we thought it was cool, posing with stuff that makes us look bad, like drugs and guns and minors and all of this other stuff. And we think that this is the thing to do when we're growing up. When we meet this person, we have a huge hurdle that we didn't know that we had to overcome. And we have to win this person over, even though they already don't like us, right? We don't know that. So the moment that you walk up, Gavin, you've got all of your social media history, every video that you've posted, every photo that you've posted, every photo you've been tagged in, every video that you've been tagged in, your Google search history, all of it is connected. Look at what's going on with the flock cameras. All of it is connected to a data center where this other person knows so much about you, right? Some of the worst days where in the moment you might have thought that was the best thing, and today you look back at that and be embarrassed by it, right? And now you have the issue that you have to have this person have faith in you. The first handful of words that come out of your mouth is going to be showing respect to the other person and then articulating your value to the other person, right? And you're not going to be able to do that when the first 2 or 3 words, yo, what's up, gang? Yo, gang, what's up, gang? Hey. You know what I mean? They're going to perceive you. And even if you have 5 degrees and 3 of them are PhDs, if that's what came out of your mouth, they're going to perceive you before anything else as a low value, uneducated person. And that would compromise your ability to succeed. So I just wanted to touch base on that real quick, because your success is going to be based off of how you carry yourself, how you build your brand, your first encounter, your second encounter, repeat behavior. And if you're not carrying yourself with the level of professionalism that the people that you want to invest in you will accept, you will find yourself in a situation where they're going to reject you, and it makes it harder for you to get into the areas that you want to get into. So I'm just showing you guys like self-sabotaging behavior, and it's not intentional. We learned this growing up. I used to speak street slang when I was growing up and interacting with the boys on the block when I was growing up. But I realized quickly that would not get me as far as I needed to go. And then I learned when I got caught up with them that because I was articulating my dialogue on a college level as a minor, the judge would look at me like this man has potential, and all of the things that I otherwise would have been serving time for would get thrown out because I did not present myself as the type of child that will perform the accusations that was set before me. And that ultimately kept me out of a lot more trouble, because I was right next to some of the ones that was out there doing some of the stuff that none of us had no business doing. They had the book thrown at them and the book was taken away from me, and I was able to walk scot-free. So I'm just letting you know that you should change the way you approach a situation. And since you're texting, you have the ability to filter your communication. So while you normally on the block would have been able to say, what's up, gang, you could have filtered that out. Delete, delete, delete. Hello, what's going on? How's your day? and still been able to get your point across. Okay. Michael says, everything you say about life is absolutely true, but this generation is unable to hear us from their point of view. Life is already over. can't find a job, no relationship, the list goes on. I may as well walk around life in my PJs. Who's your plug at school? Where you getting your vapes? 70% of students are vaping in class. Stephen is 100. Michael is 100% correct, y'all. Michael is 100% correct. There, not one thing he just said can I even critique. At the end of the day, your life is just starting as young bucks, right? And even though your lives are starting at young bucks, y'all have already perceived yourselves as getting it as far as you're going to get so far, because more often than not, we are learning from our parents to live reactionary to our environment. We do not create the environment that we want to thrive in. We react to the environment that we are currently in. And that is not beneficial to our future. And since we learn, and I'm going to tell you, I've talked about this before. When parents don't want the kids in their face, the parents will give them some money and send them off to go do something. That starts the allowance. The parents will sit them in front of a TV, sit them in front of video game consoles. These days, the parents would give the kids cell phones, and that's one of the reasons why the kids are so tech savvy, because you have this phone unlocked for hours at 2, 3, 4 years old to entertain yourself so that you're quiet and not causing trouble. The parents will teach the children to get out of their face instead of teaching the children what to do to be productive. Then, as the children get older, you're just sending them to school. You're not teaching them how to interact with other people. You're not teaching them how to perform. You're not teaching them how to behave. You will tell them that if the teacher gets bucked, that you'll go down there and beat up the teacher, which gives the kid unrealistic behavior to go to school and think, oh, well, the teacher can't tell me nothing because my mom and them will come down and flex on the teacher. No, the students are not taught socialization at home. And then when they get to school, they learn socialization from their peers. And then they're not being taught socialization from the teacher, because the teacher's job is to teach the kids how to read, write, spell, and count. Right? Then, as they get older, when things happen, now the parents will tell you, so since that happened, this is what you do. Only if the parents got time to tell them that. And now the children are learning reaction. Because this and this happened, I went and told mom and dad. Mom and dad told me what to do. But they're not telling you this is how you set yourself up so that you don't have to go through that. Right? That's not what we're being taught to do. And ultimately, it's sometimes the kids' fault, because the kids don't want to listen after a certain age because of that self-entitlement that was initially instilled in us, you know, because we started that self-entitlement with give me the phone so that you don't got to be bothered. And if you don't give me the phone, I'm going to have a temper tantrum. To give me the clothes so that I can feel popular in school. If you don't give me the clothes, I'm going to have a temper tantrum. Buy me the toys and video games so that I can leave you alone. And if you don't buy me the toys and video games that I want, I'm going to have a temper tantrum. Now the kid is in control of the parent. So when the kid gets older, the kid doesn't want to learn anything from the parent because the kid has more authority than the parent, or the kid will have a temper tantrum. While that works in the house, a temper tantrum in the street would get you knocked out. You'll get maced, you'll get pepper sprayed, handcuffed under the back of a car, brought somewhere that you don't want to be for an undisclosed period of time. It doesn't work that way. So as adults, yes, they're living life one step at a time. They are not really trying to hear the last generation because they feel like they know what they're doing, that they got this under control, because they haven't failed yet, because they haven't applied themselves yet, so they haven't succeeded yet. But because they haven't failed yet, they believe that they know what they're doing and they don't need to be told nothing else. Now, the problem with that is that they're not going to learn anything else until they start failing. And when they start failing and they recognize failure, then they go and ask for help. And when they ask for help, that's when they start, again, living reactionary, because I need you to help me out of this problem that I can't find my way out of. And you're going to help me out of this problem. So now I know how to react to this problem when it happens again. Not how do I prepare my life so I don't have this problem ever again. That's not what we're being taught, right? Michael says, best babysitters in the world is the phone. The phone, the TV, and sometimes the dog. It is what it is. It's true. It's true. So I wanted to take a few minutes out of the show before we got started so that we could talk about that, because today we're supposed to be talking about the 7 instant hacks to stay calm when you're dealing with somebody that's being ridiculous. And somebody being ridiculous is going to be somebody that's not willing to comply or cooperate with what you're trying to accomplish. You start a conversation, they're taking your conversation into the wrong direction, which is distracting the conversation from resolving your issue. You guys are debating about something instead of them performing their task. Um, and I can give you a perfect example. And I've talked about this before. Um, these are prescription glasses, right? So since these are prescription glasses, when I go to renew my driver's license or when I go to renew my passport, because it is not common practice for somebody to take a photo with glasses on that covers their eyes, I have a medical exemption that allows me to do that. As a result, I am rare, unique, very, because I don't go to the same place all the time and I only have to go once every 10 years. Even if I went to the same place, they would not remember me because they have not seen me in 10 years. So when I go there, the person that is supposed to take my photo has been trained reasonably, I can't say properly, reasonably, to not allow the patron to take the photo with anything blocking their eyes. Now, that poses a problem because the person at the front desk has a self-entitlement scenario where he or she is the most authoritative person at the desk and is unwilling to go and get a manager or supervisor when they don't understand what's going on. Then they're going to be resistive to change. They see somebody walking up that is deliberately going to take this photo, and they're going to not allow it to happen on their watch. Now, I would have to explain my situation. They don't care. I would have to escalate it to a supervisor. They don't want to. And then I would have to recognize that in order for me to accomplish this task, now I have to stop talking to this person and then talk to the person next to them to get that person to get the supervisor over to this desk so that they can do what they needed to do. Now, I could get mad. I could flip desk. I could curse the person out. I could call them all kind of names. I could bark laws all day long. But instead, I maintain my composure. And I do two things that really makes them feel as stupid as they look. I've, I've already given you my driver's license. My glasses are on my driver's license. I'm replacing the photo. If there's glasses in the photo, there's glasses on the next photo. I'm not going to take a different photo than the one that's in the system. And since there's photos in the system, if you go back through all of the photos you've taken of me, guess what happens now? You have a repeat over the last 30 years of tinted glasses on all of his photos. So now my question is to this person, why would you compromise my ability to be successful when you know that you have a history of taking this exact type of photo in your system? Now, that person is going to try to be defensive. I didn't know, company policy, blah, 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 blah. Michael says he would tase me. I mean, you could try, but that would really get a lot of people shot because I open carry wherever I go. So I'm not the average person. I cooperate to a massive degree. But once constitutional rights start being violated, I am quick draw kind of guy. I'm willing to defend my rights to the last breath. But at the same time, to keep it from escalating to that scenario, I have to point out how illogical the person currently is being, right? And it's an interesting factor because once somebody recognizes that they're wrong, they don't want to admit that they're wrong. Instead, they're going to remind you and recite the policy as to why they are doing it wrong, with knowledge that they're wrong, right? And I'm not that guy. I need accountability. I need you to go on and say, look, my bad, I didn't know. Let me go ahead and get you squared away. Instead, now that they are completely 100% wrong, now they would have to go to get the supervisor, have the supervisor process it, or the supervisor sees the delay at the counter and come over to the counter. What seems to be the problem? He's refusing to do his job. And that's the issue that we have. He's refusing to do his job. And you're going to explain the thing, then a supervisor is going to explain the policy, and I'm going to remind them, you've got the photo with the glasses on the photo, you've got the medical exemption in the paperwork, take the photo, because that's what we're here for. And I get the photo every time. But I understand it's usually a 20 or 30-minute delay in addition to how much time it normally takes you to go there and take your photo. So if it takes you an hour, it takes me an hour and 20. If it takes you 5 hours, it takes me 5 hours and 20, because I got to spend an extra 20 minutes debating because I'm different. And same thing with the passport photo. The person that's paid to take the photo is not processing the information. I'm paying you for a picture. So all you have to do is take it to the standard of, and anything that I want in it is supposed to be to the standard of the expectations of the customer, not your personal preference. So if I want to do it in a way where the photo would get denied, you take the picture because that's what I'm paying you for. And if I get denied, that's on me. But for you to tell me that you've taken my money, but you're not going to take the photo because you don't want to do it differently to what you do it every other day, which is click the button. Except this time you're not gonna make me take off these glasses. At the end of the day, you're causing a problem because you recognize that you can't get your way, so you're trying to assert unnecessary authority in this situation, which provides a conflict that should not be there. So you have to understand how to communicate and articulate with people that are accidentally or sometimes deliberately being difficult. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. Michael says, I don't see any other problem, sir. Thank you for your explanation. Have a nice day. Exactly. And that's what happens on the 21st and 22nd moment. That's exactly what happens on the 21st and 22nd moment. That's exactly what happens. Once they review the records and they realize his stuff is across the board legit, it is what it is. And that's why I told you guys I time going to get my prescription glasses, because it's $1,000 of frames for, well, frames and lenses is $1,000 for these things. I can probably get them for like $850, $875 over at Vision Works and do like a 2-for-1 special if I catch it at the right time of the year. But they're like $1,000 for these glasses. Then it's a $79 eye exam, and I have to have the doctor's note brought to the facility within 12 months of the exam. So the year that I get the ID is the year that I got to go in. And if I don't get an exam any other time, the year that I renew the ID is the year that I have to go and not only get the test, but also get new glasses. So that means I'm spending $1,100 so that I can go to the DMV and spend like $50 so that I can get my license renewed, right? That's more money than people with DUI spend to get their license reinstated. I got to do this to get my paperwork renewed, right? So when I walk up there, I'm bringing all the medical paperwork that shows take the photo. So when they argue, I'm pissed off because it's like, bro, I checked all of the boxes. But I still have to remain calm and articulate this in a fashion, professionally and respectfully, that while you are being ridiculous, you're not supposed to call them stupid. You're not supposed to call them ignorant. You're not supposed to disrespect them or degrade them in any way, but you are supposed to remind them that there's absolutely no way that they can, in any shape or form, justify their behavior and their actions. And then you compel them to perform or get someone else there to perform. And one of the ways I kind of word this type of scenario is, look, I'm trying to accomplish X, Y, and Z. If you do not have the skill set and capabilities to perform that, then can you go and find somebody that has the competency and capabilities to perform the task? Because I'm here for a specific task, and that's what I'm paying you for, and I expect the task to be accomplished before I leave. So indirectly, backhand slap comment, if you are not smart enough to do this, go find somebody else that's smart enough to do this, because clearly it's not getting done by you. I didn't have to say it like that. I articulated it in a more effective fashion. Now, let's go ahead and start today's situation. I see y'all rolling in. Make sure that y'all mash those reaction buttons on TikTok. Make sure that y'all mash those reaction buttons on YouTube and Twitch. because we got a lot of stuff going on today. And I want you guys to make sure that your friends and your homies get a chance to roll through and get a lot of information on this, because this will help you guys with unexpected anger management situations, which can allow you guys to de-escalate and avoid a lot of conflicts. Now, will this get you out of one of those inward moments? That depends on how much you're willing to tolerate versus how quickly you're willing to put up your set and box with the other person. When you recognize that they are going to be unreasonable and they're going to try to show out for the streets, are you going to defend your pride by fighting with this person, or are you going to allow them to insult and disrespect your pride and walk away from a situation where the person doesn't have the mental capacity for you to justify a conversation or interaction with them? That's going to be the biggest question, because as I've told you, that's correct, Michael, coping skills. As I've told you guys before, when you are in a conflict, and a conflict is when the two parties are not getting along during the interaction and unable to achieve whatever the interaction was designed for. That's a conflict. It doesn't have to be a fist fight. It doesn't have to be a big old boom by shade. It could simply be, I want to sit on the left and you don't want me to sit on the left. It's a conflict. Okay. Now, under any circumstances where you are in a conflict, you have to recognize that the decisions that are laid before you are inappropriate decisions when the people around you start pulling out their cell phones to record your response. The appropriate response is not a viral moment. The appropriate response is not something you can tag on Snapchat. It's not something you can tag on TikTok. It's not something that you can put up on your Instagram reel. The most appropriate and most professional response is going to be the boring response. It's going to be something that is not worth uploading to social media. However, the response that is worth uploading to social media is going to be the most negative and inappropriate, disrespectful response that you can give. And a lot of young folks want to go viral. They want that world star moment. They want that moment where, like, I said what I said, or I did what I did, mic drop moment. And everybody's going to be talking about this for 6 months to a year, 2 years, 5 years, whatever. Millions of people will know about this. They might make memes out of this situation. Look, society, at least in Western culture, praises negative behavior. If your behavior goes viral, likely it's because it's negative. Because if it wasn't negative, your behavior wouldn't go viral. Right? More people have something to say about it. Because think about this. When something good is done, one person tells one person. When something bad is done, one person tells 10 people. When 10 people feel the same way that this is negative, they'll tell 10 more people. One person sees it as positive, they'll tell one person. Multiplying that, 1,000 people will know about something negative before 10 people know something positive. That is how we operate in Western culture in the United States. So when you decide to make a decision, especially in a crowded place, everybody's got a cell phone that's going to be recording, and the establishment sometimes has recordings as well. What you're about to say and do could effectively go viral if it is not a positive response. You understand? Now, as I told you at the beginning of the show about 30 minutes ago, that negative response will meet your next employer. It'll meet your if you're trying to get engaged and you're trying to meet the family, and the family opens up an investigation and does a little light digging on you, and that video will pop up. Now they don't want y'all to be together. They're just hating on me. No, they're not hating on you. They don't like your attitude when you behave in public. You have to understand that in modern times, 2026 going forward, our reputation will precede us by billions of people will get to see and meet us before we actually get there. People in other countries, special shout out to OG Kicks, people from other countries will see and hear us before we get there. Y'all just seen India. If I went to India, a lot of people in India would know exactly who I am. Half of the people watching the show right now are from Bangladesh. If I went to Bangladesh, I'd be a celebrity. right? But when I go to Bangladesh, because all I talk about is how to improve your life and make, save, and invest money, when I go to Bangladesh, people talk to me with respect, probably offer me a business deal. But if I devalued and degraded myself on social media, when I got to Bangladesh, they would know me, but they would not know me for anything positive. And that's what you guys got to understand. Your reputation precedes you. Back in the 90s, before 2009, so anybody born after 2009 is going to look at me and think, oh, he's old because he was born in the 1900s. Yes, I was born in the 1900s. And back in the 90s, you guys got to understand, your reputation went as far as people were willing to talk about you. So it might be inside of 30 square blocks, it might be inside of one individual city, but it wasn't on the other side of town. It wasn't across the tracks. It wasn't in another city or state. Now in 2026, what you say today on camera in your house in Pennsylvania is also in my house in Florida, in another house in California, in another house in Maine, all at the same time. You can't go nowhere to start anew and change your personality. The only benefit we have in 2026 is that with billions of people out here doing what they're doing, we recognize that there is the ability for somebody else's stupid behavior to be the talk of the town now, where they eventually forget what I said and how I was saying it. And that's going to be one of the things that you guys got to pay attention to, is that even though the common folk stop talking about your negative behavior, colleges are not going to accept you. Really good jobs are not going to accept you. 6-figure, 7-figure jobs are not going to accept you. If you're working for yourself, big business is not going to accept you. They're not going to want to do business with you. And you got to pay attention to the fact that you will destroy your reputation, your brand, your credibility before you even start trying to build yourself up, because of the negative things that you do in front of a camera in modern times. And that's why we're talking about today's show. Michael says, I want to be a TikTok influencer. Well, all you got to do is just start up a camera, man. All you got to do is start up a camera. He said, yes, you are old. The younger generation, you are old to the younger generation. Of course. I'm in my 40s, bro. I'm in my 40s. So anybody that's half my age is going to be like, dang, Unc, you old, Unc. 6'7". That's what Steven says, repair my reputation in my city is going to be hard. I grew up hard headed. And but that's the thing, Steven. So luckily for you, the stuff that happened over the past 15 years might impact you more than the stuff that you did before that. So you're 36. So when you were 16, the stuff you were doing 16, 17, 18 years old, that's not on social media right now. The stuff you've been doing over the last 10 years now went viral if you did it in front of a camera. But yes, rebuilding your reputation in your hometown would be excessively hard. But when people quote unquote start over, they move to a new town and they start anew because nobody knows you there. Nobody has experienced you there. They don't have a reputation about you there. So when you go to a new city or a new state and you interact with them for the first time, if you articulate yourselves with a higher level of respect, mutual respect, and a higher level of accountability, they will give you the benefit of the doubt because they haven't met you yet, especially if it's a bunch of old folks that don't use social media that much. They haven't met you yet. They don't know you from Adam or Eve, which means that they're not going to treat you negatively, right? At least not starting out. Well, I'm gonna leave that be. He says, I'm new to witchcraft. Oh, okay. I thought he was talking about World of Warcraft, and I was about to say, oh, well, that's a decent comment. We're gonna go ahead and oh, we want to keep commenting on black keywords. Add new keywords. This person. Y'all be coming up here with with a whole bunch of wild comments. We got 400 comments. Y'all going ham. I don't understand. Y'all going ham. Okay, I thought Young Blood was going to be appropriate, and Young Blood came in there with the most inappropriate thing that I could ever see today, because it's been worse most days. All right, so let's go ahead and dive in. Guys, you guys over on YouTube side of things, I got TikTok on the other side over here, and I'm trying to manage 2 different comment sections until I can integrate both comment sections. So you guys make sure when you have available fingers to mash those reaction buttons on both YouTube, Twitch, and TikTok, so that we can keep everybody together until that stream key comes through for everybody to integrate. Because I told you guys I was going to bring more conversation in, because TikTok be talking, but TikTok today I gotta set it up where they're the adults are in there, because we got some that come in that are not too appropriate. But let's say that you're in this scenario, right? Let's paint this picture here. You're in this scenario. You feel the rise in your chest. You know, that hot, frustrating anger when you're trying to be reasonable with somebody, and the person in front of you is just not, right? Your logic isn't working. Your facts are being ignored, and you're about to lose your cool, right? You're presenting clear, undeniable points, and they are hitting you back with personal attacks, emotional outbursts, or complete refusal to engage with reality, right? You feel your face getting hot, your heart starts to pound, and you know that you are about to say something that you will absolutely regret. I know we've all been there. Feels like being trapped in a conversation with a brick wall, except the brick wall is yelling at you, right? What if I told you that there is a playbook for this particular situation, right? What if in that moment, instead of losing control and getting dragged down into their chaos, because sometimes people just want negative attention and they will start chaos with a stranger just to keep the attention on them, right? Instead of that, you can pull out and set of strategic moves that will aid you in being successful, or removing yourself from the conversation before you perform an action or activity that you would wish that you had, right? This is going to be a playbook that's not only going to keep you calm, but it's going to put you back into the driver's seat of the discussion. So this isn't about just surviving these moments, because I never give you guys information on just surviving, right? This is a practice guide to turning those exact situations to your strategic advantage. Now, recognize I've already put these walkthroughs into the membership. Stephen asked me to do this a couple of weeks ago, so it is already accessible in the membership. The guides on YouTube it's accessible already, and you can always go to click the link in the membership and then download the documents and then use these step-by-step guides, the walkthroughs, and everything like that to aid you guys in being successful with navigating these types of discussions, right? In tonight's show, I'm going to be giving you the full playbook, the psychological hacks, the verbal scripts, the strategic frameworks to handle completely irrational people and win over the situation, even when you cannot win the argument, right? Because a lot of the times it's not about winning the open discussion with the other person. It is about achieving the goal you came for. That's what it's about. You go to McDonald's and you're arguing with them about whether or not you had pickles on your sandwich or not, instead of trying to get your sandwich with no pickles on it. The objective is to get one that doesn't have pickles on it. I don't care how many times I told you don't put pickles on it. This one's got pickles on it. I need you to give me one that doesn't have pickles on it. That's what I need. We're not debating on how you screwed up. What we're acknowledging is you need to give me what I asked for, which is ultimately what I ended up paying for, right? Is he talking about me? Well, there have been some times, Michael, where you and I have had some discussions where you were playing devil's advocate and took it far enough for other people to presume that you aren't trying to learn it. But I can say that you have a different generation of knowledge, and a lot of times your knowledge is valid for your era. But in the current technological realm, your knowledge does not aid the current generation's capabilities to be successful because they don't have the resources that you have. So your recommendations now would not be as effective for them because they don't have the support that you have to back your decision. And that's the only thing that we have. So uh we come down some conversations where you're not 100% wrong, but your information doesn't support the current generation's ability to apply that information, and I'm trying to provide them with information that is more culpable of their capabilities to apply. It looks like, give me just a moment, guys. I guess this dog is trying to go outside you go. So we're gonna let you go out this door right here. We got extra doors in the office. You get out and make sure that you find that bathroom during my podcast. Because every time I look to the left, he getting ready to go to the bathroom, and I'm like, nope, nope. All right, so let's get in here. Michael says each generation is the same. Okay, yes, to the magnitude of the ability to learn and the ability to apply yourselves, each generation is somewhat the same. And the reason why they are the same is because they're walking into the similar scenarios with the similar quantity of information. Because right now we have very few generations that are passing down the information to the generation, where the next generation was already conditioned to want to learn, right? We have developed self-sufficiency. Well, we have developed independence being masked as self-sufficiency. Self-preservation is really what it is. So with that self-preservation and independence combined together, we are unwilling to learn from anybody other than ourselves, and we're only willing to learn from our own mistakes. So I got this until I don't, and then when I don't, help me is what we do, instead of I want to learn from these people who've already done that so that I can know what I should not do based on what didn't work for them, right? Because you can do whatever you want to do in this world until somebody with more authority over your situation prevents you from doing it. So while you could, in certain situations, go to certain places and do certain things, and normally it wouldn't be an issue because today somebody is in your way, the gatekeeper of your success. You find yourself in a situation without the capabilities of achieving the outcome that you thought was supposed to be seemingly easy, right? And that is where I come in at with giving you guys information on how to adapt to the things that you otherwise would not be prepared to adapt to. Michael says a generation gap for each generation. 20 years to late, they see you as you see me. I think it's going to be a lot longer than that because generations roll over every 15 to 20 years. However, your generation, you have had an entire lifestyle with no technology because technology came out in 2009, and 1959 would have been 50 years. From 59 to 2009, it would have been 50 years of no technology, right? So you would have been middle age when technology came out, right? I am the last of your generation, but I incorporated their generation into my lifestyle. So I am the middle generation between the Gen Zs and the baby boomers, right? I'm like one of the last Gen Xers that they've got out there, right? So I come from the generation that had experience to 8-track tape players and record players and 45s and disco balls and all of this other stuff. I'm the last generation of experiencing these kinds of things. VCRs, cassette tapes, how to take the little piece of paper, put it into a little square in order to record over something that otherwise wasn't allowed to be recorded on, having to wait until the DJ shut up to hit record so that you can record your favorite songs, how to make a mixtape, spending weeks waiting on the song to actually come on the air so that you can get that particular song in a specific sequence on the tape so that you can hand that tape off to somebody important to I'm familiar with that generation, right? But I'm also familiar with the generation where you can just download everything into a playlist and then reorganize the playlist and then send a link to that playlist to somebody else where they can just click the link and listen to the songs. So I see you as sage advice, Michael, but I also see that the era of non-internet does not transition over to the era of internet as easily, because slap somebody in the face in the non-technology era would have been like your word against mine, but in the technology era 12 people have that on recording and you would catch a charge for it because it's on recording. Matter of fact, side note real quick, I've had this debate with somebody over the last few days because a video was on TikTok. So I'm talking to you guys on TikTok about this because I know y'all probably seen it, where this lady makes this cop in a parking lot, and I said it was, and they're like, oh, no, it's not self-defense, it's not self-defense. I'm like, wait. The police officer has it on video that the woman makes the cop. The charge was dismissed in the court of law. The police charged her with assault on an officer, so the police officer is not going to withdraw the claim. As a result, if the victim isn't going to withdraw the claim, the judge has to decide guilt or innocence. If the prosecutor doesn't want to prosecute the charge, or the judge believes that the person is not guilty of committing the charge, then that means that you did not commit the charge. If it is dismissed, it doesn't matter if it was a plea deal or not. If it was dismissed, it was dismissed under the scope of self-defense, but they're not going to put self-defense as the verdict. They're going to dismiss the charge and focus on the conviction of the theft that the woman was involved in, because she was involved in $60-something thousand worth of theft. But let's be clear, if she did in fact unnecessarily assault a police officer, she would have held the police officer, the battery on a police officer. They would have reduced her theft charge and gave her the battery on an officer charge because she would have had more time. She would have, and matter of fact, because the assault on a police officer has mandatory jail time, she would have ended up with 6 months to a year in county, plus whatever probationary suspended sentence that she would have after that for the theft. So the fact that they threw out the charge against the officer was self-defense. People are debating with me, no, it's not self-defense. Oh, you don't like police officers, you must be black. Well, I am black. I don't like police officers, but that's not the point. The point is a cop is not going to have a assault on an officer thrown out of court unless the person who assaulted the officer was in self-defense. That's the only time it gets thrown out. But again, this is one of those situations where I communicated with the person. I understand your feelings, but if you're looking at the situation, all of the evidence indicates that the person performed the action. The officer is not going to drop the charge. So that leaves the only option for this scenario is that the person was not guilty of the action that was performed because it was self-defense. You don't have to like the way the law is written. You just have to accept the way it is and navigate around it. So back to today's discussion. Let's get into this. And before we get into some specific plays, we need to install a new operating system into you guys' brain. It's going to be the fundamental principles that will govern every move that you make. And it's going to be this. The goal is never, ever to win the argument. The goal is to win the situation. That's the goal. Whatever you came here for, achieving it today, right now, in this transaction, that is your goal. Not who's right or who's wrong in the conversation. Matter of fact, real quick, another side note, right? Y'all remember I talked to y'all about the guy with the cell phone at the T-Mobile store? All of the inappropriate behavior that he gave me, he got reported. He got in trouble with his boss, his other boss. Corporate found out about it. I went in there to get a phone. I walked out with a phone. No matter how he tries to spin his behavior, the fact is his ability to delay my ability to be successful was unprofessional. But regardless of whether or not he believes he was right or wrong, I still walked out of that store with my phone. And recognize, he even went to the magnitude of trying to tell me to leave the store. It's like, but bro, you just took a few $100s off my credit card. So you either give me the product or finish servicing the product, but you cannot eject me from the building while you have my product. You cannot have my property and then tell me that I can't stay here. You don't have to serve me. Every establishment has the right to refuse service. But once the exchange of a transaction begins, one of two things has to happen. You have to refund me my money so that I can go to another store and get the product, or give me the product that I paid for so that I can leave. As soon as you cannot refuse service after you've taken my money. You can refuse service before you've taken my money, or refund me the money and then refuse service. But you cannot keep my money and then refuse service. You understand? I have to get what I paid for or get my money back. One of the two. Now, I want y'all to let that sink in for a moment, that the argument that you're having with the person is not the goal. You're not trying to win that. You want to win the situation. So when you're dealing with somebody who's being truly unreasonable, they're irresponsible, ignorant, whatever, they're not operating in a world of logic. Okay? Now, they might be driven by the need for control, because in their life they don't have authority, but on this job they feel like they have the most authority. Right? They might have deep-seated emotions, or an identity so fused with their ideas that questioning their beliefs feels like a direct attack on their soul. Like people who think that bikers should be able to lane split and lane filter at 55 miles an hour instead of slowing down and getting off the bike and walking the bike through traffic at a traffic stop. Anybody who's riding a motorcycle that heard me just say that, hey, jump in and justify your position, because while it is okay for you to do it at a safe speed, most people believe that because the law says I'm allowed to do it, that safe speed isn't included in that. So they will lane filter and lane split at 50 miles an hour and say, oh, I'm allowed to do that. But if you get hit by a car while you're going 55 miles an hour, you then want to say it's the car's fault. If you were willing to take first person accountability and say, well, I'm going to lane filter at 75 miles an hour, and if I get my block knocked off, it's my fault, right? Then I would have no problem with it. I would have no objections to it. But my objection is, why blame the person in the four-wheel vehicle that is following traffic laws because you decide to weave through traffic because the judge in your city or state won't hold you accountable for that irresponsible behavior? Just because you have the legal right to do certain things in the world doesn't always mean that you should. Responsible behavior requires you to observe the current situation that you're in and then recognize that you should ultimately not do certain things that you might have the right to do, specifically because it contradicts your ability to achieve the agenda that you came to achieve. And that's going to be the most important part about it. It's not so much whether or not it's legal, because I can open carry wherever I want. It's legal in the states that allow open carry, and I can conceal carry wherever I want, where it's legal in states that doesn't allow open carry. But certain stores like Walmart and certain banks still have a in-house policy that doesn't allow firearms in the building. Not going to stop me from walking in with one. But at the end of the day, I have to recognize that my right to have my firearm is limited to when it is appropriate to have it. For example, even if I had a enhanced carry permit where I could bring it to a school, a local school, I shouldn't leave it in the car. Even though I paid all this extra money and got all of this extra training to walk onto campus with a gun on my hip, just like a police officer, and I've got the permit to show it, I shouldn't. Why? because I'm not going there to have conflict with anybody. I can go there with my body armor on. I don't need to go there with the firearm on. I can leave it in the car, because there's certain things that you might have the legal right to do, but you just shouldn't do that, right? And that's going to be incorporated into what we're talking about right now. So trying to win an argument with logic against someone who isn't using logic is going to be like trying to play chess with a pigeon, right? It will knock over the pieces, strut around like it won something, leave a mess on the table for you to clean up. But they're not playing by the same rules that you're playing by. Okay? Experts and writers like those featured in publications such as Psychology Today often warn against the traps that we normally fall into. We call them N-word moments. Returning anger with anger, arguing back, or trying to force our point of view across, because a lot of the times a conversation that would have otherwise been over is continuing because I'm trying to reinstill my point while you're trying to reinstill your point. And this usually would happen in a discussion with a police officer where they're wrong, you know they're wrong, they know they're wrong, you've already pointed out they're wrong. They're going to remind you that they have a policy they're supposed to follow. You got to understand that they got a hard job because of social interaction. They signed up for it. You didn't sign up for this interaction, but they're going to try to justify their negative behavior instead of accepting and admitting that they screwed up. You're going to continue to reinstill, regardless of how you feel, regardless of what your policies are. Your policies are not law, and you are breaking the law, and you are violating my rights, and you are wrong for what you're doing, and you have acknowledged or recognized it, even though you haven't acknowledged it. And acknowledging it is all I'm looking for us to move forward. That's what people normally end up doing. They just want to get the person to admit where they're wrong. Oh, I'm going to sue you. But guess what? The police officer is trained not to admit where they're wrong so that you don't sue them. So the dynamic is that once you recognize that they're wrong, you're trying to resolve the interaction. The goal is to resolve the interaction, not reinstill that they are wrong. You already know it. They already know it. You don't care. They don't care. Whatever you're going to do about it, you're going to do about it later. But you're going to finish this scenario and keep it pushing, right? These moves are gasoline on the fire of any interaction, especially when the interaction is starting to go negative. They don't lead to the resolution. They lead to escalation, because eventually somebody's going to get frustrated and somebody's going to start behaving inappropriately. And if that person is an authority in your interaction, whether it's the supervisor of an establishment that you're trying to do business with, a police officer, a teacher, and you're the student, your boss of your job, your partner in a relationship, it's not going to end well. It's not going to end well. If this is your parents and your parents pay your bills, it's not going to end well, right? Anybody who has more authority over the outcome of your situation than you do. And I know, ladies, y'all can feel like y'all independent women, y'all don't need no man, y'all don't got this, that, and the third, blah, 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 blah. But you got to understand that if anybody interacts with your financial position in any way, that person has the right and capability to dictate certain terms, whether you like it or not. And if you mistreat that person will cut you off financially. While you don't care about that, you will experience a financial deprivation that you would otherwise now have to adapt to, where you could have prevented that by conceding in the argument and achieving the solution of showing somebody else the respect that they needed to accomplish your task. It is not manipulation. It is resolving the issue in your favor, right? So many women argue with their boyfriends and their husbands when they could really just do what he said and get way more out of him than what they would get out of him if they argued him down and won the argument. You won the argument, but you lost respect from your man. You won the argument, but now he's not willing to perform for you. You won the argument, but now he's looking for another woman that doesn't argue with him. You could have cooperated with him, and now he's trying to give you twice as much. You got to understand, winning the argument is not always the goal. Sometimes it's counterproductive. The person often feels that you are trying to dominate them, and that's going to be the reason why you're going to get a lot of pushback. And their defenses are going to go up even higher, right? Even if they're wrong, if you embarrass them in public while you think that they're wrong, they're going to retaliate to that. Because again, self-preservation kicks in. I can't have you ruin my reputation in society where nobody will respect me. So if I'm supposed to be respected, now I have to assert my authority over you and redominate you so that other people in this situation will respect me, especially if my subordinates are around me watching me interact with you. I can't concede with you. So a lot of the times you have to let them win the argument so that they can cooperate with you and maintain their self-image of success. Y'all see this stuff on the movies a lot of the times where two people will be in a discussion where the person wrong has a lot more money and power and prestige, and the person that is in the right that has less money, power, and prestige negotiates a win-win where I get what I want and your reputation is preserved. That's all that matters. I'm not trying to embarrass you in front of society. I'm trying to get what I want out of this discussion where your reputation is preserved, but I still succeed. That's a win-win for us, okay? In legal terms, that's called the mediation, where you don't admit guilt, you settle, I get something, you get to walk away from the situation, swept under the rug, everybody's satisfied, right? You got to understand. But try to prove that they're wrong and reinforce the fact that they're wrong or have them part of the agreement to admit to society that they're wrong doesn't always work out. Doesn't always work out. So we're going to need a new internal rule book, guys. 3 core directives that you can repeat to yourself to prevent yourself from going off the deep end. First, their behavior is data, not direction, okay? When they raise their voice or make a baseless accusation, that isn't a cue for you to match their energy. It's just a piece of information. The data point is that that person is currently operating from a place of high emotion and low logic. And ultimately, calm down escalates the situation. Telling them to de-escalate escalates the situation. Although asking them, is there a reason why you're escalating the situation? Asking them a question kind of brings a question mark to them. So, well, I'm not escalating, but they don't realize that their emotions have triggered and their voice is elevated. Now they're yelling at you instead of communicating with you. And that's when you ask them, well, if you're not attempting to escalate, why is your voice echoing off of the walls? Is there a way that we can have the conversation where it is at a inside voice, library voice, only between you and I kind of conversation, not the kind of conversation where the rest of the building can be entertained by it? That is the least aggressive way to have an individual shut up and stop yelling at me. Isn't that something? Isn't it? That's the wildest thing. By questioning their intent and then requesting an alternative after they validate and verify that your intent or their intent wasn't supposed to be negative, you can de-escalate them without causing a combative scenario. Because if you tell them stop yelling at me, I'm not yelling at you. You tell calm down, don't tell me what to do, right? But if you ask them, well, was your goal to yell at me in this conversation? Well, no. Well, then why is it that your voice is echoing off the walls? That gets them to lower their tone a little bit. And you ultimately, you got to remember, we're going to be getting through this. You got to remember that silence is golden, because if you pause in a conversation with them, it gives them the opportunity to pause. It's almost like ringing the bell of the round and having everybody calm down a little bit before we get back into this. And it gives you the capability to have them de-escalate so that you can actually communicate with them clearer, because the madder they are about the situation, the less they're willing to cooperate with you guys. So you got to recognize that's it. It is just their emotions. It is not a command for you to get angry. It is just a signal of the environment that you're in. Data points. Second thing you want to recognize is that my response to their choice is not a reflex. That's why at the beginning of the show, I told the boy, I said, look, man, your natural instinct should be to greet somebody appropriately. Hello, hi, whatever, hi, sir, but not what up, gang, because that's not the appropriate way to get in there and have communication with adults, right? But the reflex response that a lot of people might have would be to snap back with what they do and why they do it. And I don't really care. That's not what I asked. I asked you to show respect. I didn't ask you to justify why you didn't show respect or why you didn't show the respect the way I would perceive respect. Because you got to understand, also, everybody has the self-entitlement to dictate, standing on your non-negotiable expectations for behavior, how you want to be treated by society, which means that in certain situations, if you want to be talked to a certain way, you're going to talk to people that way. Then you're going to ask them to reciprocate that. So if I talk to you, yes sir, no sir, and you're talking to me, but what up, gang? And I say, look, that's not how you approach me. That's not how you address me. I'm going to need you to show me the same respect that I give you. That expectation, they now, sorry, sir, and then follow back with that, right? I'm not asking you to do to me what I'm not willing to do to you, which prevents a self-entitlement position where you got to talk to me like sir because I'm older than you. No, I give you sir, so you give me sir in return, right? And I was giving you sir when you weren't giving me sir. So now that I'm still asking you to give me that sir, you've already been getting it, so now you need to reciprocate. That makes it a lot more sense for a lot of individuals. And this actually does work with raising children, because when you got kids, we don't respect our kids. We don't. Most parents will talk down at their children because they're children. But if you talk to your children the way you expect the children to talk to adults, you explain mutual respect to them. Yes, sir, and no, sir, yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am, when you're talking to the kids. You might feel like, oh, I don't want to diminish myself. You are teaching them by presenting yourself in that fashion so that they can emulate you, so that if they see you, yes, sir, no, sir, in front of them all day, every day, unless you're mad at them, when they go out in the public, they're going to repeat what they experience at their house. Well, my mom and dad, yes sir, and no sir to me, because that's how they expect me to behave. So when I go and I talk to the teachers, yes sir, no sir, yes ma'am, no ma'am, because that's what I was taught at my house. Then the people at the school are going to more cooperate with that child, because that child is doing what all the other kids aren't doing, showing respect to the adults, because they weren't taught that. So it's not a diminishing factor, but when you teach mutual respect at 3, 4, and 5 years old, you have to give it so that they know what it looks like, and then demand it so that they can reciprocate that. And that's going to be the same thing as an adult, because mentorship is across and down. You have to give it the way you want to receive it, and then demand it from the people that are getting that from you. Right? Michael says, won't it be better to call your therapist since most people have one on speed dial? Well, if you have an anger management problem, then it is a good idea for you to talk to your therapist. But when you're in the middle of a scenario where you're trying to resolve a situation, it is impossible for you to have a therapy session while you're waiting in line to fulfill a transaction. You can have a therapy session after the transaction. You can have a therapy session before the transaction. If you know that you're about to go into FedEx and FedEx is about to be difficult, you can sit there in the car for 30 minutes with your therapist on speed dial, because anybody that's got that Trump phone has a concierge therapist on the phone, and you can just have a session at any time. You can just pick up and call somebody. You could literally have your therapy session in the car, but when you get out of the car and you walk into the building, you still have to interact with this person that is going to say and do things to push your buttons to make you mad. And a lot of the times it's going to be done to make you feel as bad as they feel in the situation, or to have probable cause to make you leave the establishment, because they're going to say you were being unreasonable, even though your lack of reason is a byproduct of their lack of reason. If you maintain reason on video, on audio, you have the backing to say that I was never out of line. but you were always out of line. And it doesn't always work, but more often than not, it does work. That the scenario that two wrongs don't make a right, because two wrongs don't make a right, you are in fact wrong. Doesn't matter if the other person was wrong. You're wrong. You're in trouble now. But if they are the only person in the wrong out of this scenario, you are not in trouble, which means whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish is more likely to be accomplished. If you're in the wrong, even though they're in the wrong, you're getting escorted out because they have the right to be here and you don't. That's the full dynamic. Because at any point in time, if you didn't like what was going on, you could leave. They work here. They have to clock out and go home, right? Mike says, I think the problem with society started in 1979 when it became illegal to punish your kids. It is not illegal to punish your kids. It is not illegal to punish your kids. It's socially unacceptable. That's what it is. There's a difference between being illegal. There's actually, I think, 19 or more states in the country that still allow schools to whip your child in school. It's just that most parents would protest against that, and the school board would discipline the teacher for doing it. The police officer would probably arrest the adult if the parent was to try to file charges against them. But at the end of the day, corporal punishment in a school is still allowed in more than 19 states in this country. It's just the fact that it is socially unacceptable. It's not truly illegal. So yes, if the child is not behaving in class reasonably, getting spanked by the teacher is appropriate. It just depends on where you hit them and how. Because if you put your hand on their bottom, it can be perceived as harassment. But if you put the ruler to the bottom, then it's not a problem. Now, if you put the ruler anywhere other than their bottom, then it could be considered as child abuse. So it really just depends on how you do it and how many times. If you hit them 2-3 times, it can be perceived as discipline. If you just hit them for 20 minutes, it can be considered assault. So there's a fine line there. But truth of the matter is that it is still not illegal. It is actually fundamentally illegal. It's just that not too many parents are willing to allow their kids to get disciplined by society until the kids are old enough to get shot and killed by a police officer. And then you want to blame the police officer. Well, it's not the police officer's fault all the time that your child was resisting cooperation with the officer. The situation got worse because no matter how bad the police officer was being, your child got worse alongside the officer, which is why I told you fundamentally, no matter how bad the other person is being, you are not supposed to match their vibe. You are supposed to stay content. No matter how hard that might be in that situation, you are supposed to stay content. Because you go from being a victim to being an aggressor when you match their vibe. He says, if you don't punish your kids, you want to jail. Oh, yeah, if you don't punish it, if you do not provide your kids with the right sentiment in the house, the city will provide your kid with a perfect room. Because think about this right now. If you were put in a timeout as a child, go to your room, you're grounded. Now, let's look at the legal system. Holding cells, timeout, jail time, grounded, right? When your parents let you out on restricted leave, allowing you to go do things like go to school but come straight back home because you're still grounded, probation, parole. When your parents snatch you up off the block and bring you back to the house and give you a whooping, guess what that is? Detention, arrest. So house, the parents can actually show you better ways to function so that you don't get in trouble, not evading getting caught, but actually behaving responsibly so that you're not in trouble unnecessarily, and then prevent you from receiving the negative extreme areas. So when it comes down to corporal punishment, it is better for the child to catch the whooping at the house with mom and dad than it is for them to catch that whooping on the street by 20 cops. That's just my opinion. Not everybody has to agree with that, though. Michael says, it became to a point that kids are now running the house, creating adult kids. Oh yeah, I talked about that already. The kids are not, the parents are bowing to the children because the parents don't want the kids to make a bunch of noise. So the parents will do whatever the child wants in order to give the child what they want. But I'm gonna tell you something. My child start having a temper tantrum, I'm gonna see how long it lasts. I don't care if you're yelling and screaming. I'm gonna see how long it lasts. Whatever it is you want, you're not getting. I'm gonna see how long it lasts. I'm gonna set a double timer, because the longer it takes for you to cut out this temper tantrum, longer it's going to be. Your temper tantrum is over before you get whatever it is you ask me for. I don't care if it's food. If dinner time was at 8 o'clock and you had a temper tantrum for an hour, you're not getting no food till 10:30. When I said it was time to eat, that's when it's time to eat. we not having this debate. You know, you teach children don't bite the hand that feeds you, but at the same time, you got to teach mutual respect. But if you teach them mutual respect, you don't have to teach them to be subordinate. You teach them how to respect authority, but you teach them to cooperate with authority, and that makes them a helper of authority, not a subordinate or slave or any type of other position where they now feel compromised because they feel like they should have more entitlements than what they do. You got to earn that. What you don't do, you don't earn, right? Stephen says, when I have a kid, that kid will never have authority in my house as long as I'm in it. Right. And that's going to lead to the my house, my rules. And if you don't like it, you can get out behavior. And more often than not, that drives your children out of the house. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to have that position where in my house, you're never going to have authority. You have to earn authority. I don't care where you go. As long as I have breath in my body, I don't care where you go in the world, you have to earn authority from me. Otherwise, I will maintain authority over you at 45. You could be 45 and I could be 80, and I still have authority over you because you haven't earned it yet. You haven't earned it yet. That's something that not too many people think about. But let's go ahead and talk about this real quick. You do not want to respond to them as a reflex. Anger can feel like an automatic reaction, but your response is not supposed to be an automatic reaction. The space between their unreasonable statements and your reply is where your power is going to lie in this particular situation. In the tiny sliver of time, because it could be a few seconds, or you can drag it out to a couple minutes, depending on the situation you're in. You can choose to escalate the situation and have an inward moment, or you can choose to be effective, right? Avoiding unnecessary conflict and still achieving your goal. So on tonight's show, we're about making the choice a conscious choice. You can't control them, but you can absolutely control your next move. Now, the third thing is anger can inform me, but it should not drive me. Anger can inform you, but it should not drive me. Feeling angry is normal. It's often a signal that a boundary or non-negotiable expectation for behavior has been crossed, or a value that you have has been violated. We understand that. Okay? You should listen to that signal, but you are the one that is driving the car. Anger can be a passenger, maybe even a navigator pointing out hazards, but it does not get to grab the steering wheel and control the outcome of your situation. By adopting this mindset, you can fundamentally shift your objectives. You're no longer playing their game of emotional chaos. You are now playing your own game, the game of strategic effectiveness. You protect your position, you protect your peace, and you avoid feeding the very monster that you're trying to tame, which is them flying off the handles and you not getting what you want. This is the foundation of everything that follows. And make sure that you guys like and subscribe and mash those reaction buttons while you're here, because we do this 7 nights a week. Now, the moment has arrived. Someone has just said something so out of left field, so profoundly unreasonable that you feel that familiar surge of adrenaline. Your heart is racing. And this is going to be where the playbook begins. Now, understandably, you have about 10 seconds to stop the automatic escalation loop, right? Stephen said, Michael says, never get angry. Well, no, I'm not going to say never get angry, because you can get angry. Okay. When people say don't feel emotion, that is an unrealistic expectation. Never express the anger in your dialogue. Yes. Never express the anger in your actions and your body language. Yes. But never get angry? No, I'm not going to say that because that's impossible. If you said something so left field, it might piss me off. I might block you off of the channel, but I am going to stop talking the normal conversation and go through the effort of blocking you off of the channel to prevent from saying something that would get me canceled. Right? So instead of this being one of those red pill, blue pill, black pill podcasts where I'm just going back and forward with wild people on the show, I pay attention to the people who are speaking to me appropriately and then ignore the people who are not. So never getting angry is not a logical era of advice because you're going to feel the feeling. It's just that you're going to let it consume you and you're not going to let everybody else around you presumably understand that you have that feeling going on, because you can get angry and your face can scrunch all up, you can get mad, you can your lips get all hard and stuff, you might even have the fist clenching scenario, even whether they're at your side, in your pocket, behind your back, and you just right. But what comes out of your mouth next doesn't have to be anger, right? It could still be logic, it could still be reason, right? You could be so mad that you got a headache, you're starting to sweat, your chest hurt, but what comes out of your mouth doesn't have to be anger. And that's why I say no, you can have anger. You just don't follow through with it. Michael says, first person that gets angry loses. That's true. First person that gets angry, well, okay, no, that's not going to be true. The first person that gets angry, it isn't the one that loses the debate. Truthfully, the person that's angry is the first person that has been emotionally impacted by the debate, and that typically happens when something is said that hits the core values of that person. So if somebody was to make a certain comment, like we had somebody over here talking about my beard on the YouTube side of things, and if that was to negatively impact me because I felt insulted by the comment, if that would have been the case, it wasn't. The person said that I had an awesome beard, but the fact is that if that would have been the case, then I would have been angry about the comment because it was perceived as an insult, which again is compromising my values. When you are no longer talking fact and you are only throwing insults in the discussion, we are no longer trying to resolve the situation. You just want me to feel bad about me, or you are trying to make fun of me so that other people around me can laugh at me instead of you and me resolving the situation. That is when the first person lost the scenario, because we're no longer talking fact and logic. You see this a lot in those red pill, blue pill, black pill podcasts where the girls debate the guys, and when the guy makes a point, the girl says, "Oh, you're insecure." You're attacking the person who delivered the message because you don't like the message, but you're not providing logic, fact, or reason that justifies the fact that you believe that the other person is wrong. The moment that you call the guy insecure because you don't like what he said, that is the moment that you lost the debate. When the moment that you say that the guy is in his feelings because you don't like what he said, that's the moment that you lost the debate, because the fact is that if he's claiming that it is not universal between the two of you, where guys have certain expectations that women don't, and you don't agree with that, then you're supposed to debate with him on why you don't agree with that. His feelings have nothing to do with why you disagree with it. His immaturity has nothing to do with why you disagree with it. His emotional instability has nothing to do with why you disagree with him. You should disagree with him because of your knowledge. So in those types of discussions, when the first person lost the debate or discussion, when they start taking shots at the person that delivered the message. But the debate itself is when we're having a discussion that is deliberately designed to debate. That's what you have to recognize. The debate itself is oh well, I won the debate. When we're ultimately in these situations where we get pissed off at somebody else, we are trying to accomplish something. You've seen something on the shelf at Walmart that was priced at $5. You get to the register, it says $50 on the register. You want to get it for what it was advertised on the shelf. They want to sell it to you on a completely higher level. It's not about who's right. It's not about winning the argument. I want to pay for it for what it said on the shelf. And the closest that I can get to that price is what I'm trying to negotiate. Take you see the videos on TikTok a lot of the times where the guy goes around buying items for a penny at Home Depots. And a lot of the times he goes to the same Home Depot on a regular basis and deliberately stays there long enough to have this video where they're trying to take his property after he paid for it. And he's trying to rush the payment so that they can take his property, so that they can debate with him about taking his property. At the end of the day, if he knows that they're going to act a fool, he should go in there prepared, make the purchase, walk out, don't say nothing to nobody. Matter of fact, stand in front of the register so that nobody sees how much it is, and then pay for everything and then walk out. But he steps to the side so that everybody across the room can see 50 items rung up for 1 cent that are supposed to be $100-something a piece, so that he can have that debate with them for content. The fact is that if I was coming to get this stuff on the low and I'm getting it on the low, my outcome is that I'm walking out with what I paid for and I'm only paying 14 cents for it. That's my outcome. I'm not trying to debate, right? You can win the argument and still lose the outcome because I could be right, but you could have effectively took the time to refund my card and seized the property, and now I don't have the property anymore. Oh, it's unfair, but since you gave me the refund, I'm in a situation where I no longer own the property. Michael said, true, you mask the anger. I rather talk my way out of it. It doesn't always work, but that's what we're going to be trying to talk about today. Because I know the total anger, my kidney shut down and it's hard. Whew! That's some serious anger when your kidneys are shutting down. Steven says, if Walmart price gouges someone, Sterling is on the quest to right that wrong. So on that situation, on a debate is unnecessary. Well, yeah, you're right. You are right. Sterling gave us a 9-hour show one day. He came on. He was live for 9 whole hours. 2 different nights he came on. We went from a 2 or 3 hour podcast to an overnight podcast. It was like 10 o'clock in the morning and we were still live. I was like, Jesus Christ, Sterling. He really hates Walmart. He really hates Walmart. Now, here are going to be 4 plays for those of you that are still here. Here are going to be 4 plays to execute immediately. It's a rapid response sequence to keep you in control. So, play number 1 is going to be the strategic pause. The first thing you do is nothing. I understand how that sounds. Stop. Pause. Nothing else. You say nothing for at least 2 or 3 full seconds. If you can get 5 or 10 seconds, 15 seconds, if you just want to stand there and stare just enough to gather your thoughts, because let's be honest, a catatonic stare at the person across the room typically makes that person fear for their safety because they're not sure if you're going to jump over the counter. You don't break eye contact, but you stop talking. You understand? And I know women don't like being told this, but ladies, ultimately, in those scenarios where you get mad, if you just shut up long enough to rethink your position, you are likely going to get what you're looking for out of this situation, and probably not even have repeat performance if you just articulated it just a tad bit differently. So this is an unnatural experience. Most people don't do this. Most people have immediate on deck quick responses for any type of disrespectful situation. Anytime they feel triggered, they have an immediate response. And that response is always designed to make the other person feel insulted, right? And while you learn to throw these zingers back, that only escalates the scenario and de-escalates your ability to succeed. It's gonna feel like weakness to not respond quickly with a retort that makes everybody in your squad be like, ooh, right? Because that's what we're used to when we were kids. We're not kids anymore. We're adults. That ooh means you just messed up, not the other person. Okay? Even though the other person was wrong, as soon as your squad is ooh, you messed up. Because those are instigators. Their job is to cheerlead you into a negative situation that you can't get yourself out of, so that they can record it for their social media channel and show how you wild out, right? So saying nothing is not, it's going to be the way to avoid everything. So I think that it is more effective for you guys to pay attention to this and then incorporate this as one of the first go-tos in every angry situation. Friends, family members, children, boss, police officer, just stop talking. Wait a little bit. Think about what you're dealing with right now and then respond. Everybody that you engage with has this situation that will ultimately give you the opportunity to respond because they want to see what you're going to say. They're going to wait a little bit to see what you're going to say. And some people are so adamant to get a response from you, they're going to ask you, you don't got anything to say about that? But they would have given you 5, 10, 15, 20 seconds of silence before they actually interact with you again to see if you're going to provide a positive or negative retort. Michael says it would have costed more to ship it back to the shipper. I've had items refused from the buyer and told to dump them. Oh, yeah. Well, if somebody was negatively impacting your ability to make a shipment and they are compromising that transaction, a lot of the times return to sender might cost the sender more money because every time something is shipped, it has to be paid for. So you might offer a partial refund and say, well, I'll give you back some of it because I'm not paying for shipping because you already got the product. You keep the product, but I'll give you back some of your money. And I can take somewhat of a loss. You're going to take somewhat of a loss, but you still keep the product. And that is a negotiation tool that resolves the scenario so that you don't got to pay another $20 to get the item back so that you can pay another $20 to send it to somebody else. How you doing to person of France? I think that that comment was inappropriately structured, so I'm not going to put that up on the screen, but he is giving a shout out to everybody in Africa, so special shout out to Africa. Now, silence is one of the most misunderstood power moves in communication. If you notice, like wealthy people, powerful people actually use silence more than anybody. You can see it in the movies, you can see it in politics. Notice when the president is talking, or notice more often when he's not talking. People in power, before they say something that compromises their location, their position, their integrity in the situation, they will say nothing and stare. Notice most of the movies that you watch where the person in charge watches the person not in charge justify everything, and they just keep rambling while the person in charge just stands there and stares and just listens. More often than not, don't even have an objection to what's being said, but I just want to see where your head's at, so I'm just going to let you keep talking. At some point, I'm going to step in and say something, but I'm not going to say it from a position of anger. More often than not, a leader in a mentorship position might ask you a question to make you think or rethink your position, and then have you think or rethink about what you should be doing next so that I don't have to tell you. If you know what you should be doing, what is it and why are you not doing it? So I don't have to tell you to get back to work. I just have to ask you, what do you think you should be doing right now? Working? We'll get to it. Self-reflection, which ironically is how therapists treat you in therapy. That's exactly how therapists treat you in therapy. They're not going to, more often than not, give you any advice. They're going to make you reflect on your own decisions and then make you reflect on what you think you should be doing in that situation. Wow. And you're paying a couple $100 an hour for you to give yourself your own advice. So when someone makes an outrageous claim, they are going to be expecting an immediate defensive reaction more often than not. When you give them nothing but calm or no cellular reaction, considered silence, two things are going to happen. First, you denied them the reaction that they craved because they were looking for negative attention in that moment, which can be an instant disarming situation. Second, and more importantly, you give your own prefrontal cortex, the rational part of your brain, a fighting chance to catch up with the what do they call that? Amygdala. I said that wrong, y'all. Amygdala. That's better for appropriate pronunciation, but still probably said wrong. But it's the part of your brain that is the alarm system that is currently screaming to fight, because you have the fight, the flight, and the freeze reactions. You also have the fester scenario where you just kind of linger instead of leaving. But originally you have your fight and your flight, your stay or your leave, or you freeze because you can't tell the difference between whether you should stay or you leave. If you pause, you are preventing yourself from fighting. And that's the key point. This pause is an empty space. It's going to be a cognitive runway. It's your intentional behavior of creating the space needed to choose your response wisely. Play number two is going to be the micro body reset. While you're in that strategic pause mode, you're going to do a quick invisible systems check on your body. Unreasonable conversations create physical tension, which reinforces the feeling of being under attack. You will consciously break that loop. There are going to be three things that you can do. First, drop your shoulders, because I know a lot of people are like up here ready to buck. Drop your shoulders. When we get tense, our shoulders creep up towards our ears. So drop your shoulders. Deliberately pull them down and back, okay? Which also helps with your breathing. Second, unclench your jaw, because every time you get mad, you start grinding your teeth. Everybody does it. Many of us hold immense tension in our jaws during conflict, which can lead to TMJ. Consciously relax your jaw. Matter of fact, don't even close your teeth. You can keep your mouth closed and keep your jaw open, which prevents you from clenching your teeth. It's a little trick. That is to place the tip of your tongue on the roof of your mouth, which makes it harder to clench your jaws. Think about this, guy. Third, feel your feet on the floor. Now, I don't mean bend over and touch your toes. I mean, maybe move your feet around inside of your shoes or whatever, but feel your feet on the floor. Ground yourself in this moment. And this could all happen inside of the first few seconds that you're being silent. But this simple act pulls your awareness out of the spiraling thoughts in your head and back into your physical body. Now, these aren't just relaxation tips. They are like neurological reset buttons. By relaxing your body, you send a signal to your brain that the threat level is manageable. And this helps you keep your voice calm so that you're not elevating your voice, talking over them while they're trying to talk over you. And this is going to help you think clearer, which can perceivably prevent escalation if it does not encourage de-escalation. Okay. Play number 3, the 4 breaths, 4 to 6 breaths. And I know that this is always an anger management tool, but this is a really good thing that can help you within that first 10 seconds of not responding. If you need more than 2, do your 4 to 6. It depends on how angry you get and how much you fly off the handle when you get angry. That really works on your breathing techniques, right? But this is a psychological anchor of your new playbook. During your pause, you're going to execute just one controlled breath, but it is a specific kind of designed breath to hack your nervous system. Inhale quickly through your nose for a count of 4, and then exhale slowly and silently through your mouth for a count of 6, which is effective if you stop, pause, and you kept your mouth slightly open. Like, see that? So you can breathe in through your nose quickly, breathe out through your mouth. Nobody knows that you did, because that body movement is a sigh. I'm not asking you to sigh. I'm asking you to kind of just stop. Notice the difference. If they're not inside of your personal space, they didn't notice that you just did that. This is silent cues that you're doing for yourself, not externally for the sake of people around you. The science behind this is solid. A longer exhale stimulates the vague nerves, which is going to be a major pathway for your parasympathetic nervous system and your body's built-in reset digest system, which also, if you were doing it slower, because I did it quickly, if you were doing it slower, it would be more silent. Take it in, take it out. Nobody can hear that exhale, but that exhale is the relief of a lot of stress in the moment of a stressful situation, right? Think about it like I'm about to do this, as if I'm on a microphone and I don't want nobody to know that I'm about to do it. It's supposed to be a silent inhale, silent exhale, slow exhale, but enough to take that load off of your chest. Now, ultimately, I want to let y'all know real quick that for anybody who has to talk in front of people, this method actually works to relieve your anxiety during public speaking. So if you have to talk in front of your class, if you have to talk in front of your family, if you have to talk in front of people, you're nervous, you're uncomfortable, guess what? That scenario, that behavior pattern right there, that one quick in, slow full second out, that'll remove your anxiety right before you start talking, right before you start communicating in a scenario where you're normally under a lot of anxiety and stress. Not even when you're dealing with conflict. It is just you battling with yourself with trying to get this business proposal out in front of a board meeting. This is effective. But to avoid you doing something stupid while somebody else is doing something stupid in front of you, this is important. This is going to act as a direct brake on the fight or flight response, helping to slow your heart rate and reduce feelings of panic. One intentional 4 to 6 second breath can be enough to begin interrupting the surge of stress hormones like adrenaline or cortisol. It is a literal reset button for your internal state, right? Play number 4, the internal monologue. Internal monologue, meaning what's going on in your head, what you're thinking about. I want y'all to understand this. As you do these first 3 plays, you are going to use a specific line of self-talk silently in your head. Say to yourself, anger is rising. My body is activated. I do not have to act on this. You can short that out to, I don't have to respond if you want to. I don't have to react to that. Or I love this one. I'm not going to dignify that stupidity with a response. You can say that in your brain, not out of your mouth, and prevent yourself from reacting in a fashion that compromises your outcome. Steven says, this stuff I will take note on and work on. This is this part here especially. Oh, Steven, today's show is just for you. You asked me about this 2 weeks ago, and I told you I was going to cover it on the 14th, and that's today. This show is explicitly for you. And all of the notes that I'm talking about today are in the membership. So whatever notes that you take, go into the membership and get the rest of it and cross-reference it to make sure that you got it all. I take good care of the members in my membership. When y'all talk to me about something, I got you. I'm doing research for you. I'm providing you with all the information that you need to be successful. I'm giving you alternatives. I'm giving you motivation. I'm giving you inspiration. I'm giving you mentorship. I take good care of the people in my membership. So as much information as you're getting from me for free on the live podcast, you can only imagine all of the stuff that's going into the membership. It's crazy. On the YouTube channel, for those of y'all that's watching me on TikTok. But this is going to be important for you guys, because it isn't about suppressing your anger. And that's why I told Michael it's not a good idea to tell people don't act on anger or don't get angry. I'm actually saying don't act on anger. I'm not saying don't get angry. This isn't about suppressing your anger. It's going to be about observing your anger and the environment that's causing it, right? By naming the emotion, you are creating psychological distance from it. You are no longer angry. You are a person who is feeling angry. So you're not self-identifying as I am angry. I am a person feeling angry, right? And you also got to recognize that anger is a secondary emotion. It's a primary expression, but it's a secondary emotion. Anger is usually sadness projected outward, where somebody hurt your feelings some kind of way, and now you're pissed off. That's where anger comes from. Sadness is sadness, but depression is sadness inward, where you suppressed being sad, didn't want nobody to know that you was being sad, didn't think nobody cared about you being sad, and now you're depressed. Anger really is the only way that men are allowed to express sadness, because sadness is considered a sign of weakness, and nobody wants to be perceived as weak. People do not express sadness. Instead, they express anger and frustration. And then women are learning how to become masculine like men. So instead of women expressing sadness, women are also expressing anger and frustration. And then we start having a kaleidoscope of conflicts where it's anger combating with anger. But this is going to be a subtle but profound shift that's going to move you from being fused with the emotion to being an observer of the emotions. But this technique is going to be a core tenet of anger management. It's going to create that critical space between impulses and responses. So in that first 10 seconds, your sequence is going to be pause, don't speak, reset, shoulders down, jaw relaxed, breathe in, hold in for 4 seconds, breathe out for 6 seconds, narrate. I'm not going to tolerate that bullshit in your head. This is what you're doing inside of the first 10 seconds. You are now weathered the initial storm and stayed in control at the same time. You're ready for the next phase of what actually to say in the middle of this bullshit, right? So now that you controlled your internal state, you have to open your mouth. And what comes out will determine the direction of the conversation. The strongest communication styles in tense situations is calm, specific, and boundary-based. You are not going to attack or defend. You are going to re-architect the conversation. Remember, if you're having a conversation with somebody and you articulate to them that you did or you said or whatever, then you are attacking them verbally. When we experienced this and the outcome was that, I'm not attacking you, I'm pointing out how the situation went south. So let's say that, back to that DMV scenario, if they refuse to take the photo because of the glasses. Well, uh, after I provided the documentation, we experienced a moment where the photo was not being taken due to objections to my position, which compromises our ability to finish the transaction. Notice, I didn't say you don't want to do your job, but I articulated that you don't want to do your job. In that moment, I'm expressing to them, look, we need to find a way for us to finish this transaction where the photo was taken with my glasses on so that I can move on so that other people can be helped. At no point in time did I say you need to do your damn job, but that's exactly what I'm articulating, is that you need to do your damn job. I would continue in that particular discussion with, if for any reason that you're incapable of performing a task, can you go and acquire somebody that is capable of performing the task? Since you don't want to do your job, bring somebody over here who's willing to do your job for you. If you're unwilling to go get somebody, let me talk to a supervisor who has more authority to approve the transaction that you are unwilling to approve. Since you don't want to do your damn job, let me talk to your boss because I don't want to mess with you no more. Notice the difference. Notice the difference. At no point did I devalue the other person, but I made it clear we're not able to proceed unless you are willing to do what you are supposed to do. And if you're not willing to do it, somebody in here will. And instead of holding up all of the other people behind me, let's get somebody here to resolve my situation so that I can leave with what I'm looking for and you can move on with your day. Especially under the dynamic in that particular situation, this is only going to happen once every 10 years. So if you do this today, I'm not likely to come back here again for the rest of your employment here. So this will be a one-off conversation, right? Like, dang, I didn't know that you could do it like that. Yes, you can. So the most powerful tool in your verbal arsenal is going to be I statements. This isn't some touchy-feely relic. It's a strategic tool for seizing control of the narrative without escalating the conflict. I statements reduce blame from them and keeps the focus on tangible issues, making it harder for the other person to deflect. Because if I say you're not willing to do your job, no, my company policy is that I'm not supposed to do X, Y, and Z, A, B, and C. I didn't ask you what your company policy was. I asked, can you get someone else over here to do for me what I need done, since you do not want to do it? Because somebody here will do it. And the evidence of that is it was done before. Right? Compare these two responses to an unfair accusation. The you statement, what most people will do more often than not. You're not being fair. You're twisting my words and not listening to the facts. That's what most people would throw out there. This is an attack. It invites a counterattack and it guarantees a power struggle, especially if this person is being watched by their colleagues, right? Or their subordinates, even worse. The strategic statement would be, I'm finding it difficult to follow your logic. I need us to stick to the established facts for me to respond clearly. You see the difference? The first is about them. The second is about your need to continue the conversation productively. It's almost impossible to argue with. Doesn't mean they're not going to try. It just means it's going to be more difficult for them to argue with. Like earlier when I was telling you guys about the person that wanted to debate me about the police officer getting maced being self-defense. I tell them, look, as much as you don't agree, I recognize your feelings. I understand that your emotional position is that you don't think it's right, but explain to me how the prosecutor and the judge dropped the charge if it wasn't self-defense. If you cannot articulate that, no matter how much you dislike what happened, the outcome was that the person was not convicted for macing a police officer on a video camera because it was observed in a court of law as self-defense, because the laws indicate that self-defense is not prosecutable in court. Now, while no judgment will ever happen involving a police officer where the judge is going to say self-defense against a police officer, because that compromises police integrity, they will just drop that charge so that it is not addressed in court, so that it does not go on the record that you defended yourself against a police officer. So the case being dropped, that charge being dismissed without consequence, clearly indicates you were in the right when you maced that guy. You was in the wrong with everything else. You was in the wrong with what caused him to be there. You was in the wrong with everything else. But when you maced him, you were not in the wrong. That is the reason why you didn't get charged. So when I articulate to the person, like, look, explain to me how your logic, or not your logic, but your feelings, your emotions, supersedes the logic of non-conviction with satisfactory evidence for conviction. They can't. And since you can't, ultimately, that person wasn't guilty, which means they didn't do anything wrong. And the only time you can justify that is if it was self-defense. Now, once you establish the baseline, if that then, now you can lead them down a path of, so I was right, without ever having to say, so I was right. How can you tell that you don't need the facts to be clear? Let's break down why certain phrases are going to be so toxic. When you tell someone to calm down, like I told you guys earlier, you're being ridiculous. You are invalidating their emotional state. You don't want to invalidate their emotional state. They can be the most ridiculous person here. They can be making the most idiotic statements in front of you. You don't want to talk to them about that, right? Even if their feelings seem completely irrational to you, they are very real to them, okay? So invalidating them just makes them fight harder to prove that their feelings are justified. So you're essentially attacking their reality, and they are going to defend that reality fiercely, even if they're extremely wrong. Take, for example, people who jump up and make negative comments about Democrats. And some of them are actually Democrats pretending like they're Republicans talking bad about Democrats, just to fuel the fire of the discussion. We'll be talking about something interesting, and they'll drop a political party comment in there. You're liberal, dick. Bro, they wanted the validation because in their mind, you have to have a poor political position in order for you to have an illogical mindset. Or a certain political position only carries an illogical mindset. The problem with invalidating them is that they truly believe that, even if it's wrong. But then when I point out to those exact same people, it's like, well, first of all, financially, the majority of Americans are Democratic by lifestyle. Because if you're making less than $168,000 a year, you fall into the Democratic category. All of the benefits that you receive, all of the discounts and rebates and everything that you receive, tax deductions and everything to that effect, a lot of this stuff was put in place by Democratic parties. All of the government assistance that Donald Trump is putting a stop to was handed to you by the Democratic parties. The ICE agents that are being unmasked now, Democratic parties. The ability for ICE agents to not gun you down and not be held accountable for it, Democratic parties. So we need both of them. So I can't say that one is better than the other. But what I can say is that you can't say that the group that is supposed to be the most idiotic is the group that is protecting your safety and providing you with resources when you can't afford to provide for yourself. They're not that dumb if you're getting what you need from them. Right? So, when I point that out, it's like, well, while I don't agree with everything that they do, how dumb are they if they're keeping you safe? How dumb are they if they're giving you what you need when you can't get it for yourself? How dumb are they that they recognize that your financial class is struggling in this society and they're putting checks and balances in place to keep you from falling off? How dumb are they? Now, It doesn't matter which direction that you swing. When you think about it, it's like, well, shit, they ain't that bad. They don't do a lot of stuff that I don't like. And usually it's somebody who's like a gun control person. It's like, I don't like the gun control laws, so Democrats are idiots. And it's like, I don't like them either. But that doesn't change the fact that if they're going to give me a subsidy because of my income level, I really appreciate them giving me the subsidy. So instead of attacking, we use a simple 3-part structure. And you guys can map this out however you like. First part of the structure, you want to state the observation or impact using I. Because this is about me. That ain't about you. It's about me when you use I. Describe the problem from your perspective without blaming them. So a lot of the times, you might have to use both I and we. We experienced an interruption in the transaction because I was not allowed to take another photo with my glasses on, equivalent to the photo that was taken the last time this ID was replaced. That scenario, that discussion is not accusing them of doing anything. We puts us both on the same side of the table. It's us against the problem. If I experience something negative because you did something wrong, that makes you my opposition. So instead of saying you say we. Instead of saying I, well, instead of saying you say I. So if I experience something negative because we were involved in a situation where I didn't get what I needed, at no point in time I pointed a finger at you. That keeps them engaged in your situation. So take an example like this. I'm concerned that the conversation is becoming heated. That's a nicer way of saying stop yelling at me. I'm noticing that we're straying from the original topic. That's a nicer way of saying that has nothing to do with the point. I am having a hard time responding when I'm being interrupted. That is a nicer way of saying stop talking over me. Notice the difference. Instead of saying shut up, let me finish, let me finish, let me finish. No, I'm having a hard time responding when I'm being interrupted. And a lot of the time, and you'll see this on some of the podcasts, I let you finish, now let me finish. It doesn't work. After you finish speaking, or after they finish speaking, a lot of the times, when the person being interrupted starts trying to speak again, the other person jumps back in again. And the reason why they're doing that, it is a tactic where they believe if you're not allowed to get your point across that they won the argument, not because their argument was valid, not because they were right at all, but because you could not respond, they won the argument. But you could not respond because they didn't let you respond. And a lot of the times when you're in one of these situations, if they talk, you let them talk completely. Then you try to talk. As soon as you get 2 words and they talk again, and you pause and you let them talk some more, and then you try to get in again, and then they jump in again. After the 3rd time, it's like, I'm having a hard time responding when I'm being interrupted. I've given you the floor 3 times, and I ask that you give me at least 2 to 3 minutes to talk so that I can say what I want to say, and then you can say whatever you want to say to object to that. And sometimes they may interject you a 4th time, and in that 4th time, did you not agree to give me 3 minutes? Okay, so can I please have that 3 minutes that you said you would give to me? And you get that 3 minutes. In that 3 minutes, the first 30 seconds, you're going to make your point and then reinforce your point with the facts. You don't want to start off with a narrative. You don't want to start off with a monologue. You don't want to do a 3rd-party example because they're going to interrupt that. You want to make your point first, state your point first, and then reinforce that with facts so that if they jump in after that first 30 seconds, you already said your point, and then you're going to reinforce it, right? Part number 2, state the non-negotiable expectations and state your needs. Clearly and simply, you want to state what you require in this discussion to continue. And if you don't get that, the conversation with this person is over. Meaning, if you're in an establishment, you're trying to do business, there's more than one person at the counter, the person that you're talking to is not cooperative. At the end of the day, if they're not giving you what you need in this moment, The conversation ends with this person, and now you need to speak to a higher authority. I don't care what you have to say. Every time you finish articulating why you're not following through with your responsibilities, every time you finish articulating why you're not accomplishing the goals I need you to accomplish, I'm going to let you talk. And then after you finish talking, I'm going to remind you, I have already asked to speak to a supervisor. You have already articulated your unwillingness to accomplish the goals that I'm trying to accomplish. I have acknowledged that, and I am asking you to provide me with your supervisor. Why do you want a supervisor? Because I asked for one. And that's going to be a back and forth action on a regular basis. Well, why? Because I asked for one. And since I've asked for one multiple times, now we're in a situation of defiance because I have continuously asked for a higher authority, and I'm not getting the higher authority. Notice, I didn't say you're not giving me the authority because you don't have that choice. I am looking for a higher authority, and the higher authority is not showing up. Right? So let's talk about how to articulate things. I need us to be able to speak without raising our voices. This works in relationships, y'all. This works when you're talking to family. This works when you're talking to your children. This works when you're talking to your wife when she's flying off the handle. This works when you're talking with your boss. This works when you're talking with a police officer. They're going to be defensive and say, I wasn't raising my voice. But if your voice is echoing, that means it is too loud. Plain and simple. Somebody says, I have a question. Who is this? Jay, what is your question? You can type your question in to the comment section, and we can go back and forward on this. Another one is, it's important to me that we resolve one point between moving on to the next. And that usually happens when there's multiple consecutive situations occurring. And when that happens, there's a straw man on each individual point. You might be in a traffic stop where the police officer pulled you over because of the way you were speeding, or you rode through a stop sign, whatever, right? They want your information, and now they're trying to pick at what's in your car and where you're going, where you're coming from, blah, 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 blah. Look. You pulled me over specifically because of the way the vehicle is being operated. Let's focus on that. If you decide that you're going to issue a citation on that. And then if we're going to discuss something else, we can discuss that after the fact. The police officer is going to want to maintain their authority. No, that's not how this is going to work. I'm going to talk and you're going to listen, and I'm going to do and you're going to do and I'm going to do. And at the end of the day, you're going to sit there and be quiet because you also have the right to remain silent. But if you do articulate again and say, well, look, since you told me that your reason for engaging me is this, at the end of the day, we need to resolve this. And then if you want to have a conversation about something else, we can have a conversation about something else if I'm not in a hurry to go somewhere else. But if the only reason why we're talking is this, we need to stick to this. Not the firearm in the car, not the stuff in the back seat, not what's in the trunk. The reason why you pulled me over, that's what we're going to focus on. Right? So I'm not answering any other questions that is unrelated to why you stopped me. And that also leads to, like, I don't answer questions and all of that other stuff, because if you pulled me over for the way that I was operating my vehicle, what my address is my ID valid, blah, 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 blah. None of these questions have anything to do with what you pulled me over for. You pulled me over because you didn't like the way I was driving. It is your responsibility to determine that the information is correct. And if you don't have any information at the scene to determine that it's not correct, you are supposed to assume that it is correct. And then you are supposed to issue whatever citation you're going to issue. So if you are not talking to me about my driving, and I am not willing to talk to you without my lawyer, at this point, the discussion stops. You stop me for the citation. You're going to get the paperwork. You're going to bring it back. I'm going to sign it. I'm going to go on about my night. That's it. Another one. It's important to me that we resolve. I already said that. We resolve one point before moving on to the next. This helps with preventing strawman topics where we're bouncing around from subject to subject and never staying on topic. I can only continue this conversation if it remains respectful. This happens when somebody is taking shots at you, they're assaulting your character, they're devaluing you. A lot of the times in this male versus female discussion where women do things inappropriately and then they shame the man when the man calls them out on it. We can only maintain this conversation if you're going to maintain respect. I understand you might not like men, but at the end of the day, if we are talking about a certain scenario where it is perceivably observed as unfair or unreasonable, and if we flip roles in that scenario, the person on the receiving end of the unfairness would equally say that it is unfair. That is the discussion, that is the argument, that is the debate. My childhood, my security or insecurity or the lack thereof, my emotional stability has nothing to do with the facts on the table. And I expect us to maintain focus on the facts on the table. Under that observation, if they're unwilling, if they want to just continue to try to devalue you as a person, you just stop the conversation. When you're dealing with this at home, when you're talking to your girlfriend and she's calling you names, I can only be involved in this conversation if you're going to talk to me with respect. The moment she calls you stupid, the moment she calls you insecure, the moment she says there's something wrong with your mama, conversation is over. I'm not going to continue the conversation after that. I already asked you to show me respect. And the moment that you said something that disrespected me, the conversation stops. So they can come back. Oh, you're not going to say nothing. You ain't got nothing to say. Blah, 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 blah. I already told you that if you're not going to show me respect in the conversation is over. We're not resolving the issue at hand anyway. So since you're not respecting me in the conversation, I'm not going to participate in the conversation. And you stay on that. No matter what they say after that, you remain silent, because at the end of the day, a person can only argue with another person. They cannot argue with themselves. So if you never respond, no matter how mean and rude or disrespectful they are in their dialogue to you, they're eventually going to stop. And when they do, either one or two things can happen. You can remove yourself from the situation, or you can articulate. But if you were to articulate, you restart the conversation, which allows them to continue. If you put your foot down and say, don't disrespect me, and they disrespect you in the conversation, we're not talking no more. This conversation is over today. And the next time we see each other, if I'm going to talk to you about the problem that I have, I'm going to start with my problem, not how you talk to me, but you will talk to me with respect when you talk to me, or you won't talk to me at all. And that would be a scenario where you're setting a non-negotiable expectation for behavior effective with family and friends and colleagues. Like, if you want me to associate with you, you're going to have to show me the respect that I expect to receive. And so many people, male and female alike, need attention, that if they will get that attention from you without an issue, conditional to the respect that you expect to receive, they will give you that respect so that they can get the attention from you. So part number 3, you want to state the next steps or the consequences. This is going to be the pivot. Just like I said, offer a choice that leads towards more productive paths. Can we agree to take a 5-minute break and come back to this, which allows both parties to calm down? If not, I'm going to have to step away and we can reschedule. This is a situation where you're so pissed off that if we continue this conversation, we're going to end a fight. Another one, perhaps it would be better if I responded to these points in writing so that I can be very clear. This is a situation where you're talking to somebody who you cannot communicate with. You need to put your points down on paper and hand it to them so that they can read those points and then respond accordingly. Because a lot of the times, arguments are going to be based on analogies and hypotheticals. And all it takes is for you to change one variable in a hypothetical to try to be right, and you have deviated from the original problem. So let's put it all together. Imagine a coworker is blaming you in a meeting for a problem that you didn't cause. The reflexive response is, that's not my fault. You're the one who dropped the ball. I don't pin this on me. That would be the reflexive response. A strategic response would be after that pause and the quiet breath. I'm concerned that we're focused on assigning blame rather than solving the problem. I need us to focus on the facts so that we can find a solution. Can we talk through the project plan step by step? This response does several things brilliantly. It doesn't get defensive. It reframes the goal from blaming to solution. It sets a boundary, a non-negotiable expectation that we must focus on the facts. And it proposes a clear, logical next step. It's assertive, calm, and it puts a onus on them to either engage constructively or reveal themselves as the one that committed the chaos. Because if they refuse to focus on the problem, not fishing for conflict, then they would be perceived in the discussion as the cause of the conflict. This is fundamentally more effective than having back and forth action with them. I've said this plenty of times on the show. When somebody makes an accusation against you, if it is not true, it is more effective for you to ignore the accusation and not dignify false information with a response. The more you try to defend against a lie, the more society believes it's true. Take, for example, when we were kids, one of the jocks could say that he slept with one of the girls in school who he never sees outside of school. The more she tries to deny it, the more people will believe that it's true. Now, inappropriately, her response could be, yeah, and it was so small, I didn't feel anything. Now they're no longer paying attention to her, they're paying attention to him because, oh, it don't matter that they did it. What mattered is that his junk is small. And he's going to be in denial, demasculated. That's not the appropriate response. Dude says that he smashed. And they come and talk to you about it. And you're just going to ignore it. Doesn't matter what they say. Because at the end of the day, if it was true, I would have something to say about it. There are a lot of comments that come up, and when those comments happen, then the negative comments I don't entertain. And the reason why I don't entertain them is because by not dignifying them with the response, I do not provide validation to an inappropriate comment. And you have to remember to do this in your day-to-day practice. So, what is this? Vacuum asks, why? Tell them that it's human nature. Why? Okay, so why is going to be because you have to recognize, even though it is human nature to argue and bicker and provide negative feedback, you do not want to compromise your ability to succeed your objectives with your personal desire to win a fruitless argument with someone whose goal is to get attention from the argument. Do you understand that if you are trying to complete a project and they are trying to get attention, the longer you're in the argument, the more they get what they want, but the longer it takes for you to accomplish your goal. You are not completing your project. They are getting fulfillment at the expense of your anger and frustration, but you are not accomplishing your goal. Some people only linger on a podcast long enough to get the attention and validation that they need. Some positive comments, some negative, and once they get that validation, they're no longer in the comment section. Because they were only here for the attention. If I stayed in a debate for 45 minutes with an individual that is here for attention, and I have found myself accidentally doing that from time to time, that person is only here for validation, while the show is supposed to be educating people on other ways to change and improve and value themselves, right? I would not be able to achieve my goal while the other person is achieving their goal of getting attention. So I have to stand on non-negotiable expectations for behavior and stick to certain rules like stay on topic. So if you give me a left field scenario more often than not, especially if you're not one of the members in the membership, I'm going to ignore it. Why? Because it is not what we're talking about today. And if it does not relate to the show at all, then it's a straw man topic that probably is reserved for another day, which ultimately means that we should leave this particular question for the day that it would be more valid. Outrageous, right? But true. So now we're about to dive into more advanced strategies, including the strategic use of silence and when to disengage the conversation entirely. So if you're finding a playbook helpful so far, I want you guys to take the opportunity, especially if you're looking for more practical strategies for communication. Hit that subscription button if you haven't done so already. Mash those reaction buttons while you're here, especially if you're on TikTok, because it shows the algorithm that this is information that people really need to utilize. After the show, hit the notification buttons on future shows that we have. If you guys are watching us on YouTube, because I'm going to be putting up Monday's show tomorrow night, but we have like all of August, the rest of September, and part of October already listed on the YouTube channel. And all of the shows that have gone live before have been archived going back, I want to say at least 2 years, where you guys can get all of the detailed information that you need to be successful and be aware of some of the topics we're going to be covering coming up soon. Even if you want to watch us on TikTok and YouTube has push notifications that we went live, you can see that push notification from YouTube and then log in on TikTok and watch us on the show. It doesn't really matter, but either way it goes, make sure that you show the algorithm that you value the information that you're getting right now. Now, we talked about the initial 2-second pause, but now we need to discuss silence as a prolonged strategic tool, which means not just getting silent for a couple seconds, staying silent until you achieve your goals. And this isn't ghosting. This isn't an emotional shutdown. This isn't, if I can't get my way, don't talk to me. That's not what this is about. This is about you maintaining an appropriate position in your discussion and not devaluing yourself by stooping down to the level of the person that you're communicating with. When you recognize the person that's communicating with you is disrespecting you and devaluing you in the conversation. So people will rush to fill the silence, often revealing more information than they intended. When an unreasonable person has just made an illogical point or a personal attack, and you respond with calm, deliberate, and extended silence, it is like holding up a mirror. So if somebody came up and made a slanderous claim about me, and I just stopped talking to them, or if I was in the middle of a conversation with you guys and somebody made a comment in the comment section and didn't acknowledge them at all, they got to stop and think, I've responded to everybody else's comment but theirs. That says a lot. That says a lot, because you recognize I'm across multiple platforms right now. I got TikTok, I got Twitch, I got YouTube, I got multiple platforms right now. We have a few 100,000 people right now, and out of the people that are talking right now, I am responding to everyone that comments appropriately in the comment section. So when somebody says something that is not appropriate and I don't acknowledge it, that speaks volumes, because out of the thousands of comments that have come through, yours was ignored. What does that say about your comment? You're not agreeing or disagreeing with the person. You are simply creating a space and letting their words hang in the air, forcing them to sit with what they just said. Often in the face-off of your composed silence, the person will start to feel uneasy. They might backtrack a little bit, take back what they said, sometimes offer an apology. They might try to clarify their position, often softening it in the process. Silence exerts control without being confrontational. Remember I told you about the catatonic stare? They said something stupid, and you just stop and just stare. An uncomfortable time to stare. The first 5 seconds, not too many people really feel that. But the next 15, you stop and you staring at this person. The longer they don't walk away from this conversation, the more uncomfortable they're going to feel, because you're looking at the stupidity with a buffering presence. Now, I am trying to evaluate this information and it is not clicking right now. And they are going to try to justify the stupidity that just came out of their mouth. And normally they dig a deeper hole. They don't make it make sense. You are effectively putting them in a conversational timeout without even saying anything. But there's going to be a limit. Sometimes the conversation is just not simply unreasonable, it is unproductive or abusive. And in these moments, the smartest strategic move is to disengage. You should not allow yourself to be in an abusive scenario simply to achieve your goals. If you recognize that the person that you're dealing with is unprofessional and abusive, or disrespectful and abusive, because unprofessional in the workforce and disrespectful in your personal life, and they're being abusive, in that dynamic, you got to shut it down. I've actually had a friend that I used to talk to, and I was like, bro, when I try to provide you with advice, you start talking down to me and cursing me out. And at the end of the day, but each time you do that, there's more months between our conversations. I don't know if you noticed this, but I used to talk to you every day, and I went to talk to you once a week, and now I talk to you once a month. And on most occasions, I talk to you once every 3 months because I don't like the way you talk to me. If you're not going to show me the respect, eventually you're going to lose me as a friend because you're not going to disrespect me. I've had that exact conversation with somebody. And it's from that point forward. If they were to even slip, remember that conversation I had with you about respecting me? That's all I got to say. My bad. It's a simple scenario where you have to recognize that if you are going to be in my presence, you will respect me. If you don't respect me, don't be in my presence. You can't have both. I'm okay with you not being in my presence. You're not okay with me not being in your presence. That means you have a choice to make. Respect me or lose me. In relationships with best friends, families, girlfriends, boyfriends, children, parents, that's a huge decision for you and them to make. Because I'm no longer going to the family reunions if I'm going to be treated like this when I come to the family reunions. If y'all not going to show me respect when I show up, I'm not coming out here. And then next year, I don't go. You don't just make a vague threat, you stand on it. You don't respect me, I don't talk to you. So if I say I'm not talking to you because you don't respect me, next time you call, I'm not answering the phone. Next 5 times you call, I might not answer the phone. Then when I call you to see if you changed, that's when we're able to determine if you're going to get better. Oh man, I haven't heard you. I haven't heard from you for a while. Yeah, I know. And I think you remember why. Right? In these moments, the smartest thing to do is going to be to disengage. And as many psychological resources suggest, continuing to argue with a person who refuses to be reasonable is a mistake. Sometimes the most effective response is going to be no response at all. Y'all know that gunslingers say that the best shot fired is the one never fired. The most effective shooters say that the best shot fired is the one not fired. The best argument to have is the one that you never get into. The best fight to be in is the one that never started. The best argument to engage in is an argument that you did not get involved in. Conflict starts, you walk away from it. So here are going to be clear signs that it's time to disengage. First and foremost, the conversation has become abusive. Not gaslighting where you don't like what they have to say, but what they're saying is true. We're talking about things like name calling, right? When they're calling you out of your name in an inappropriate fashion. This isn't the nickname that you guys have agreed that you're going to be called by. When they're calling you out of your name. And I can't say all of the different names that they could be utilizing because it'll get me canceled, but you know what I'm talking about. If they're yelling uncontrollably at you, where they're yelling at the top of their voice to the magnitude where you're starting to develop a headache. And no matter how many times you have addressed the tone, they are refusing to respect you enough to talk to you in a calm, concise manner. Personal attacks. If I'm talking to you about what you did wrong or what we are experiencing negatively in this scenario that ultimately became because of what you did wrong, and you start talking about my childhood, you start talking about my mama, you start talking about I'm traumatized, you start talking about I'm insecure, and all of this stuff, that's personal attacks. The conversation dies. If you were having a conversation with the police and they started going over your rap sheet, the conversation stops there. If you've been arrested more than once and you're talking to a cop that wants to investigate something, and, oh yeah, remember that one time when you got arrested for such and such and such, the conversation stops. Look, bro, I was going to give you full cooperation, but as soon as you start going through my jacket, at the end of the day, the conversation stops, and I want my lawyer. I would have gave you all the information you needed, but as soon as you start bringing up my rap sheet, bro, the conversation is dead. You went from an informant to O.J. Simpson. You shut down the whole situation when you did that. I don't even want to talk to you no more. Matter of fact, if I have to have another interview, I don't even want you in the room with me. I'm not willing to talk while you're in the room. And if I think you on the other side of the glass, I'm still not willing to talk. Your commanding officer gonna have to put you out on the road somewhere because we are no longer talking. Seriously, you set the standards because those are personal attacks, right? And look, y'all, personal attacks go a lot deeper than this. Let's say somebody comes over, because I've had this happen before. I'm running a business. I had rented out a facility that used to belong to another business. They had some graffiti on the walls. I took the establishment as is because I was just using it as a storage space for my company vehicles. I didn't really care what it looked like. Somebody came over as a bill collector. They were trying to collect payment from the previous business. They come and talk to me. I tell them, look, I'm not that business. I'm a completely different business. And they, oh, well, you've got this on the wall. All right, well, I tell you what, since you're not willing to listen to me because the building came that way, I tell you what you do. You go and talk to the property manager. The property manager will verify who belongs in this particular unit, and then you can talk to them about how to contact the person you're looking for. Oh, well, you're saying that you're not who we're looking for. Can you prove it? I don't have to prove it. I told you that I'm not who you're looking for. And that is all I have to do. If you don't believe me, you can stay here as I finish loading up my inventory and I'm going to leave. The doors stay open 24/7, so you can stay here as long as you want. But you came here to collect the debt and you're not collecting it from me. So if you want to talk to somebody who could potentially cover the debt that you're coming for, you got to talk to the property manager. I deflected the entire thing because whatever I could have helped you with, whatever I could have helped this person with, I'm not doing it now because you contradicted my integrity by basically calling me a liar when you pointed out that there's graffiti on the building of the old company's name because I didn't waste time paying for the place to be repainted. I don't even want to talk to you. Personal attacks, the conversation is over. Threats, it should really be over when that happens. When people threaten your safety, when they threaten to get revenge on you, when they threaten to do something to somebody you know, when they threaten to sabotage your success. Threats, that's it. Oh, if you don't do X, Y, and Z, I'll fire you. That's okay. I don't have to work here no more. I've actually had a boss talk to me about potentially letting me go on a job one day, and I told that boss, please don't threaten me with a permanent vacation because I will take that today. I will take that. You don't got to wait until next time. You can do it now. I get paid more money staying at home than what I would be here. And honest to God, since that conversation, I have been getting paid to stay at home instead of going to work. You understand what I'm telling you? I stood on business. After that conversation, that was my last day at work 3 years ago. I have been running my own business since that day. So a lot of people that I used to work with see me on this podcast. They're like, shit, that man's still doing it. He said that if they said anything he didn't like, that he was not coming back to work tomorrow. And as soon as they said something I didn't like, I did not come back because I stood on business. And we have to all do that for ourselves. Your safety and your dignity are non-negotiables. And as men in the Western culture, where there are a lot more negative people, not just women, negative people that shame and devalue men because they don't like what men have to say. Ultimately, your dignity needs to be preserved by you, not by fighting the other person, but by removing yourself from a discussion where the longer you stay there, the more they're going to devalue. You don't need to stay. We're not solving the problem right now because I'm the one with the problem. You're the one with the negative comments. We're not solving the problem right now. I don't need to talk to you. So you remove yourself. And then if you have to come back to that establishment to get something done, you request a different person. And that person can be sitting at the desk. I'm going to need to talk to somebody else. Oh, but this person is here. Yes, but this person insulted me the last time I was here, threatened my safety, all of this other stuff. I don't feel safe. I don't feel comfortable talking to this person. I want to talk to somebody else to get the job done. You might have to go to a different a different entity. If it's a bank, you might want to go to a different branch. If it's a mechanic shop, you might go to a different shop. But that person that devalued you, disrespected you, dishonored you, you're not associating with them no more. So if that means that you're going to take your business somewhere else, take your business somewhere else. The person is simply not listening. You've made your point calmly. They're either ignoring it, talking over you, or repeating the same debunked argument. And this usually happens when you're talking on a call center to somebody in the Philippines that doesn't want to rectify your situation because their job is to discourage you and then get you to hang up the phone. In that moment, you're disengaging. If you are repeating what you've already told me, now we're talking in circles. That's what that's called, talking in circles. I'm not debating that anymore. We've already established that that is wrong and that ultimately you're in the wrong. What we're talking about now is how to resolve the situation going forward. And sometimes we try to give a teaching moment, especially when we're dealing with police officers. We try to give a teaching moment because their job is socialization, and that's the one thing they weren't taught in police academy is socialization. They were taught in police academy to seek and apprehend how to use a taser, a stun gun, and a handgun, and the handcuffs. They weren't taught the law, and they weren't taught how to interact with people. So if they have poor communication skills, they're going to learn those communication skills on the job. So each interaction is a learning experience, which means that the civilian has to teach the police officer how to talk to civilians. That takes authority away from the police officer. The police officer doesn't want that. They're going to want to maintain their position as the authority figure. But those of us that are confident about our position, we know that we're not wrong. So I'm going to teach you how, if you approach someone like me again, or if you approach me again, how we're going to do this so that we can get through it faster. I'm not saying I don't deserve to get in trouble for stuff that I do wrong. What I'm saying is that I can get in trouble in a respectable fashion. I would catch that charge with respect. I don't have to get disrespected while catching the charge. And that's where I'm at, right? You want to be respected even when you screw up as a police officer. I want to be respected when I screw up as a civilian. And that's all I'm asking for is mutual respect. This is going to be, when you feel exhausted and frustrated in these situations, when you recognize that your energy is being drained without progress, you recognize that there's solution in sight, this is going to be the sign of a diminishing return in your engagement with the other person. You need to protect the record. In a professional or legal context, continuing a verbal argument is going to be risky. Disengaging to put your response in writing is a crucial defensive move. Disengagement is not failure. It is a strategic choice to conserve your resources. Here's going to be some powerful disengagement lines for a professional setting. I don't think this conversation is productive anymore. I will follow up with my thoughts in an email. We are going in circles. Let's pause this and revisit it with a clear agenda next week. I've said what I needed. I said what I needed to on this for now. I'm moving on to the next item, right? For a personal setting, right? Friends, family, kids, relationship. I'm not willing to continue this conversation while it is this heated. I'm going to take some space. Taking space doesn't mean we're going to go cheat. Taking space means I'm going to walk away, maybe go have a coffee, go for a long drive, maybe go sit at the bar, have a couple beers with a friend, something. I'm going to remove myself from the situation. Then when I come back, we're going to figure this out later, either later today, tomorrow, next week, whenever I detach emotionally from what just happened, we're going to readdress the situation. Or we clearly see this differently and we're not making any progress. Let's talk about something else. Let's change the subject, right? I can't talk to you when you are speaking to me like that. So if they're cursing, yelling at you and everything, don't curse at me. So you start cursing at me, the conversation is dead. So I don't like when you're speaking to me like that. So we can try again when we're both calm. So I'm not dismissing your train of thought. I am acknowledging with you that your train of thought must come to me in a respectable fashion, right? The key is to follow through with whatever it is that you say you're going to do. You must actually step away when the terms and conditions of you walking away are fulfilled. This sets a powerful boundary and teaches people that the only way to have your time and attention is to engage respectfully. And I understand, even when you're in a scenario when you're standing on the side of the road and you're detained and the officer is threatening your safety and yelling at the top of his voice, and you start walking off, not officially like down the street, but like start taking 3-4 steps back. Oh, I detained you. It doesn't matter what you said you were doing. If you're not going to talk to me with respect, I'm going to remove myself from the situation because my safety is in jeopardy. Oh, well, you can't leave because you're detained. Regardless of how you feel, sir, if you are threatening my safety, I have to put myself in a safe position. And if that means putting 20 feet between you and I, we can talk in this environment with more space between us because I don't feel safe this close to you. Doesn't mean that they're going to give you as much space that as you demand, because they're going to want to feel like they're the authority in the situation. They may try to reach in and grab you and try to put you in handcuffs and all these other things. But if the officer recognizes that you're backing away because they are threatening you, the officer is going to look to his peers and try not to feel like a jackass and start trying to rethink how he's going to word this when he talks to you. Because if you've articulated on his body camera, I'm going to give you 100% cooperation within reason, as long as you don't disrespect me and threaten my safety. As soon as you start saying, I feel threatened, I don't feel safe, I don't want to be here anymore because I don't feel safe, I don't care about the detention, I don't feel safe, those statements on their body camera starts indicating that, hey, he's doing something that he's not supposed to do as an officer. He's going to have to change his ability to approach people. He'll get coached by it after the fact. It's not like, oh, they're going to discipline him in front of you. That's going to happen in the locker room. But when officers do come out, their behavior will be different, because clearly this is, every time something happens that leads to a confrontation on video, it's reviewed, it's evaluated, and then there's going to be a training session about it. Just about every time. When situations go south in a business, the establishment has it recorded. If it leads to chaos, the manager watches the videos. If there's audio involved, the manager listens to the audio. And then there's going to be a training session about it. If you go to a drive-through and you have a fallout with a customer, after the second or third fallout on a shift, the manager has a team meeting while the store is closed to talk to employees about how to engage the customers. It always happens. But verbally articulated, not just, oh, you about to piss me off. That's not the right words. I don't feel safe in this conversation. That's the right words. That's the legal right words. Because my safety was compromised is going to be the statement that you're going to be making in front of the judge. Anything you did for self-preservation was because the person that was supposed to de-escalate was escalating in an unhealthy fashion while holding you hostage. without probable cause. Because if you can't arrest me, you should. But if you're not going to arrest me, I need to go because I don't feel safe here. Now, if you're consistently finding yourself losing your cool with unreasonable people, Stephen, it may be because your reaction is being amplified by hidden psychological drivers. Understanding these can be a game changer for a lot of people. Ladies, y'all pay attention because this might really impact the reason why y'all get short-tempered with men on a regular basis. There's going to be an identity conflict, and that usually happens in those gender debates where a man will say something that is universal and a woman doesn't like it because it doesn't favor her position. The argument might feel like an attack on your personal identity. When someone dismisses your facts, it can feel like they are calling you incompetent when that's not always the case. It is the fact that your facts do not hold weight in their discussion with you. When they ignore your perspective, it can feel like they're saying that you are insignificant when that is not the case. It is the information that you are providing is not valid in the discussion that they're having with you. If your anger is escalating in these scenarios, it is a defensive mechanism for your sense of self-worth. When the discussion was not actually attacking your self-worth, it was debunking your information provided in the conversation. You just took it personal. Two, another time that this happens, justice sensitivity. Some people are simply wired with a higher than normal sensitivity to unfairness. The ability to bust out of nowhere, that's fucked up, that's not fair, that's not right, and demand it to be right. When you see someone breaking the rules of logic and respect, it can trigger a powerful, righteous anger. Karen, that has become a household name because certain women that are identified as Karen, and some guys, have this overwhelming sense of self-righteousness that when they see somebody in society not performing the way they expect them to perform, that they feel it is their duty to go to that person and force that person to comply when they don't have the authority to make that happen. And then they feel like in this moment that they can get the police to back them up when this issue is not a legal issue. It's a domestic dispute. You feel the deep need to correct the injustice and restore the balance that you perceive that is supposed to be there. This is why anger arises. Road rage on the streets, battles in the comment section about what's right and wrong versus what's ethical and unethical versus what's legal and what's not legal, based on personal perception, not what's actually written in the law, right? Accumulated history of trauma reenactment. And I'm going to be honest with you, complex PTSD is occurring when an individual who has experienced a traumatic event subconsciously or intentionally puts themselves back into a similar traumatic event in order to try to achieve a different outcome. Re-traumatizing yourself when the outcome is the same. For example, being cheated on, getting into another relationship with a cheater, and then getting cheated on again. It's the goal was to be in a relationship and not be cheated on by dating a cheater and trying to change the outcome. Doesn't work, but it re-traumatizes yourself. So trauma reenactment is going to be another trigger for you. So today's argument is rarely just about what happened today. More often than not, in long-term relationships, the current conflict can trigger a whole network of past hurts and unresolved arguments. We call this sandbagging bullshit from the back in the day and throwing it up later, right? A seemingly small issue can lead to a massive explosion because you're reacting to all of the other times this has happened. Not being heard, not being seen, not being valued or validated could be all taken out of proportion and thrown up at the same time because you're drinking out of the orange juice bottle fresh out of the fridge instead of putting it into a cup after being told not to do that, leading into a 4-hour argument about something that happened 5 years ago when you didn't listen 5 years ago. Because the argument and complaint is right now, you don't listen to me when I give you instructions, not that you're drinking out of the juice bottle. Some men are in relationships with people right now where we're getting into an argument over loading the dishwasher when the dishwasher isn't the problem. The problem is we are not in a relationship where the other person is being heard and understood and respected the way that person wants to be heard, understood, and respected. Right? Control pressure. At this core, anger can be a desperate attempt to control an uncontrollable scenario. When someone is being irrational, they're presenting you with a reality that you don't want. They should be logical. Your anger is a surge of energy designed to try and force them back into the box of how things should be based on your perception. So if you expected this to be a smooth engagement, and it's not a smooth engagement, it is met with friction. Your frustration is because you're trying to force someone else to behave the way you want them to behave when you have no control over their behavior. Number 5 is going to be a stress backlog, because sometimes the anger has very little to do with the person in front of you. Think of your nervous system like a container. We call this suppressing rage and suppressing emotion, which I tell you is never good. Every stressor, a bad night's sleep, a looming deadline, pour into the little stress container, right? And sometimes these things can develop into ulcers. An unreasonable person can simply be the final drop that causes it to overflow. You've been suppressing rage about something going on in your life, or multiple things that are outside of your control that's going on in your life for so long that this one jackass did this one stupid thing, like, I don't know, park behind your car when you're trying to back up, and now you done blown your stack. Not because they parked behind your car, because you are full of stress, and this is the moment that you can appropriately vent that stress. Matter of fact, I had this happen to me yesterday, day before yesterday. I was at a gas station. I pulled up to the gas station, so you had to pump. I pulled up this way because all I needed was to use a little windshield wiper thing to clean my window because I had no windshield wiper fluid in my car, right? So I instead of me pulling up at the pump and blocking the gas pump itself, I pulled up in front of the pump to use the thing. Now, I realized I was not at the gas station that would give me the discount that I needed with my gas card. So I was Googling the address to go to a gas station that will give me the discount that I'm looking for. In the process of finding the location, a woman tries to pull up to the pump. See, my car was sitting there. Then, because she can't get effectively all the way up to the pump to pump her gas, she wanted to get out of her car and come to me and talk to me about why I should move my car so that she can use the pump that I'm blocking. I'm not getting gas right now. I'm setting my GPS so that I can go to another gas station. Do I fly off the handle with her? No. But I made her feel stupid and bad at the same time, because I explained to her I was using this pump, and now I am trying to get gas at a different gas station, and I'm plugging it into my GPS. It would be more appropriate for me to finish programming my GPS and then drive instead of texting and driving. It's only safer. So if you could wait until I finish programming my GPS, then I'm going to leave. And she just stood there for a moment. And I said, "You're welcome." And then she walked away. By the time she got in her car, you could hear my GPS say, "Turn right at the light." Then I pulled off. She felt like a dumbass because if she would have sat in the car for 65 seconds, I would have been gone. But because she insisted that she wanted that pump that I was occupying, she made herself look stupid in a public place. I don't got to get mad. I don't got to fly off the handle. I could have probably done that better by blocking the pump, not needing gas because I was just there to clean my windows and blocking the pump, and she would have just waited behind my car until I pulled off. But I didn't want the pump. I wanted the window cleaner. But if my car would have been broke down, what if my car was overheating? I pulled it up. That's where it stopped at. I'm waiting on a tow. She's not coming to offer me a jump. She wants me to move. A fucking old school Cadillac. Bitch, I ain't pushing shit. If this motherfucker ain't moving, it ain't moving. If you can't use the pump because my car is in the way, go use another pump, is what most people would have said. But notice when I articulated, I was in the middle of my ability to exit, and you're interfering with that with your presence. If you get out of my face and give me the ability to move on, then you can have this space. I articulated it in a way where it de-escalated the conflict and it prevents the other person from escalating the situation to a moment that requires law enforcement. Avalon comes in with the same, it's almost like Avalon popped in with the same scenario as Vacuna. Like y'all are sharing troll accounts. Why does he do it that way? Exactly the way I said it, because it de-escalates conflict. It de-escalates the situation and it prevents the other person from having as much ammunition to escalate it into an unnecessary conflict. The difference between I was just leaving to them ramming my car in a parking lot is how I communicate with them. The difference between I was just leaving to us having an argument and then they're trying to take my license plate and call the police. But if she would walk to the back of my car and see that my plates don't match her plates, we're not from the same space. She would recognize that I ain't from around here, which ultimately means that she should give me enough time to program my GPS to figure out where I'm supposed to go because I ain't from around here. My plates show you that I ain't from around here. This car don't belong in this location. That's why we need a GPS. Logic starts kicking in and rational behavior follows suit. By identifying which of these drivers are at play, you can start to diffuse the anger at its source, which prevents you from being the unreasonable person in a discussion with somebody else. If it's an identity conflict, you can remind yourself, my worth is not determined by their acceptance of my argument. I don't need to validate this with them. If it's a justice sensitivity, you want to tell yourself, my job is to be effective, not to be the world's fairness police. So if they're fucking up over there and that doesn't impact me, that is none of my damn business, right? Once you've mastered the fundamentals, and then when it comes down to everything else, if it is beyond my control and I can't resolve it today, let it go. Because at the end of the day, that emotional frustration that festers, that is going to develop a level of fatigue. That is going to cause mental blocks where your cognitive functions will not function as normal as they could. Your enhanced levels of critical thinking is blocked by suppressed rage for a situation that you just can't do anything about. Right? You can move on to something more advanced and use some new unorthodox techniques once you've mastered these fundamentals. So these are going to be some mental methods designed to create immediate emotional distance from situations that requires you to think logical and rational. The character casting method. This is going to be the first one. This is a powerful depersonalization technique. Instead of seeing the person as a unique individual attacking you, you mentally cast them as a character type. Are they the victim who is never at fault? Are they the bulldozer who must win at all costs? By putting them into a conceptual box, you stop taking their behavior so personally. Their irrationality is no longer about you. It is just that character reading their lines. You become detached to what they're doing, and you become an observer of their behavior. The next one is a chessboard view, and a lot of people use this one. In a heated argument, our focus narrows to how do I win this point? The chessboard view forces you to zoom out and ask more powerful questions like, what move improves my long-term position in this engagement? Losing your cool might feel good for a second, might get you some social reprieve where your friends are like, oh yeah, you said, well, you did, ooh, but it weakens your position. Your squad being entertained by your negative position, your negative behavior, is not going to get you out of that court case. Your squad entertained by your negative position is not going to get your job back. Your squad entertaining your negative position is not going to get your husband back. You understand? It's going to weaken your position. The person that you want to cooperate with you is going to less be willing to cooperate with you because of your negative position. So cheerleaders in the background that's encouraging you to be aggressive, that is encouraging you to be negative, that is encouraging you to snap back and devalue the other person, zingers, quick retorts, those are bad people to be around you because they're not providing you with ways to achieve your goals. They're providing you with ways to win the argument. The argument is not what's important here. It's your ability to be successful, which is what started the argument in the first place, is because you started trying to be successful and you have experienced a hurdle. You don't want friends that are going to encourage you to fight the hurdle. You want friends that are going to help you win the damn race. So if you got friends that's going to help you fight the hurdle, where you never make it to the finish line, you need to replace those friends with friends that are going to help you get over, around, under, or through that hurdle so that you can finish your race. Because they're succeeding after they finish laughing at you. Right? Now, documenting the issue and disengaging might feel passive, but it strengthens your position, especially when you're dealing with business, especially when you're dealing with law. Writing down what happened and as to the best of your ability, who said what when. So in any encounter, if at all possible, on the first encounters, you want to ask, who am I talking to? Write that down. Write down what company they work for. You know, if they have an employee number that they're willing to provide, write that down too. If they have an extension to a line that they use, write that down too. Before you start the conversation, before everything goes south, because people are willing to provide public knowledge information when they're not in trouble. But when they think they're in trouble, they're not willing to give that. So even a police officer, more willing to give you their name and badge number when they do not think they're in the wrong. But as soon as they know that they screwed up, they're not willing to give you the information because they know that they're going to get in trouble for that. And you're just trying to identify who's in trouble. So you want to get their information in the beginning of the discussion. Before we move on, I need to know who you are so that for documentation purposes. Right? Now, let's go ahead and get down to the bottom of why we're talking about it. Always think 3 moves ahead. Because if this goes south, move number 1, I want to already have your information down so that I don't have to try to force it out of you later. Move number 2 is navigate the communication to rule number 3 or move number 3, complaining about your performance after it's over. Because most social interaction scenarios have a how was my performance review. We're one step away from social credit, which Yelp reviews, Google reviews, all of these other reviews, Reddit reviews, where people talk about you online. Before you meet somebody, a lot of the times, a lot of us can put our government name into the Google search and information about us will come up. A lot of us can put our government name into the search bar of a social media platform like TikTok, and your freaking profile and everything that you're attached to will come up. If people got negative things to say about you, they got your name and they didn't put it online and they just said negative things about you. And that is a collective data search that talks about whether or not you're a bad person or not, which compromises your ability to have a positive conversation in the future with somebody who has a prescribed disposition of your behavior. If I believe that you're going to be hostile when you walk up, I'm going to start with hostility. But you have to break down my hostility by showing me you're not hostile, which will change my perception. Now I'm going to feel bad about judging you wrong, and I'm going to be more cooperative with you because I thought you were hostile based on my research of you, but you're not hostile. And to make it up to you, I'm going to offer more than what I was willing to offer when I thought you were hostile. See the difference? Third, the anchor object. This is going to be a good technique. This is a physical tool for staying grounded. Choose a small object that you can keep in your pocket. A smooth stone, a coin, a ring. I understand when you're going places like courthouses and stuff like that, you might not be able to keep this kind of stuff with you. If you have a plastic coin instead of a metal coin, you might be able to keep it in your pocket, get through the metal detector. Some people use like rubber bands on their wrist, but I have a concern about the rubber band because when you're popping the rubber band onto your forearm, you apply damage to your wrist, which could lead to the development of carpal tunnel. So, I don't encourage that, but some people use the popping of the rubber band technique. But you want to find something that can distract you from the situation to keep you calm. People have those stress balls, the things that you squeeze and they kind of like stretch out and stuff like that. Some people have the little fidget things that they mess with. Whatever it is that you utilize that you can carry with you to most places, you want to have that with you when you know that you're about to go into a stressful situation so that you can distract yourself from the stress, okay? So before any difficult situation, assign a mantra to the object, like strategy, not reaction. That's a good mantra. Strategy, not reaction. When you feel your anger rising, discreetly touch that object, whatever that object is. This physical sensation acts as a pattern interruption, breaking the mental loop of frustration and reminding you of your strategic intention, right? Then the silent sarcasm, calm voice. Duality. I want you to understand this is going to be the more controversial tool, and it requires a lot of discipline. Internally, you allow your frustrated inner voice to have its say. Whatever you would have said out loud, let that run through your head without actually saying it out loud. For example, wow, that's truly breathtakingly stupid, and that's the most ridiculous thing that I've ever heard. Might be what's going through your head. Let that thought exist in privacy of your own mind. Do not say it out loud. Externally, your voice is going to remain perfectly calm and measured. That's an interesting perspective. The dumber it is, the more interesting it sounds. Back in the day in the South, oh, bless your heart, when somebody wanted to say you were stupid as hell. Not too many people knew what that meant. They thought they was giving you blessings from God. No, they were calling you stupid to your face by saying bless your heart. Somebody say something dumb, that's an interesting perspective. You don't tell them that you disagree, because if you're telling them that you disagree, you are setting a wall between right and wrong. You think you're right, you think they're wrong. If your observation is different from theirs, that is an interesting perspective. I never thought about it like that. I can see where you're coming from. These are ways where I understand, acknowledge, and validate your inaccurate, illogical, irrational decision making, thought process, articulation of speech. At no point am I agreeing or disagreeing with what was said. I'm just acknowledging that it was said. Can't believe it was said, but I'm acknowledging the fact that it was said. So, can you help me understand how you arrived at that conclusion? Let me put that together for you. That's an interesting perspective. Can you help me understand how you arrived at that conclusion? If you're talking about emotion, you're going to come with I feel, I think, I feel. Logic and reason is going to be based on facts from a specific source or multiple sources. California code X, Y, and Z. Such and such statute A, B, and C. Standard operating procedures of Walmart is A, B, and C. You're not talking about how you feel. This is the fundamental outline of how we're supposed to do this, because this is what is in writing, and you go look this information up, and then you can verify it. You don't have to agree with me. You just have to understand that this is the way it's supposed to be, right? That's the difference between feelings and logic and rationale. Because if it's backed by facts, the facts have a source. Because you didn't create the facts, you adhere to them. If it's backed by feelings and emotion, there is no facts. It's just your personal feelings, and feelings are not right or wrong. They can be understood, but they're not right or wrong. So I'm not trying to defend or refute your feelings. I acknowledge them. I acknowledge that you feel that way. It's not fact. 100 people can feel like I'm wrong right now, but the thousands of people that are still sitting here watching disagree. Right? This is going to allow you to vent the initial spike of anger initially, so that it doesn't contaminate your external response. The key is to ensure the sarcasm remains silently in your head. The thought doesn't leak out into your tone. And likewise, when you're on social media, you'll be listening to somebody talking out the side of their neck. You don't get into the comment section and tell them that they're stupid. You might say that they're stupid while you're talking to your phone, but you don't type it into the comment section and hit send. If you're going to respond, you would respond appropriately. Well, how did you get to that logic? I've had some people try that with me in the comment section, and they would hit me with the how, and I would hit them with the how not. Like if a motorcycle is lane filtering and they get cut off by a car, well, we're going to call it cut off by a car, but if you're weaving through traffic, you kind of had that coming. And I'm like, oh yeah, well, that near miss the biker's fault. Well, how? I'm not going to justify the fact that, well, how not? How is it not the biker's fault? And the first thing somebody's going to say, oh, well, in California, it's legal to lane filter. Right, but first person accountability requires that the person operating the vehicle is operating it at a speed where they can react defensively to people who are not paying attention to the road. So if somebody else is about to swerve into your lane or stop abruptly, you're supposed to be able to react, and you're supposed to have enough time to react. So if you don't have enough time to react and they hit the brakes and you hit them, you are following too close. It doesn't matter if they stop short. What matters is that you didn't have enough time to stop without hitting them. If they were merging into your lane and you hit them, it doesn't matter if they didn't see you. What matters is that you saw them and you didn't stop. Now, the liability laws in no fault states are going to be what's more important than what people actually pay attention to, because in a no fault state, both parties are reasonably liable. One person is going to be more at fault than the other, but both parties are going to be reasonably liable, because in every state, even in at fault state, liability of the victim is if you could have avoided this. So if you're watching a vehicle take over your line of travel and you allow it to happen, you allowed yourself to be in a crash, which put you at fault. So when I say it's the biker's fault, that's why it's the biker's fault, because he was driving faster than he could react, which puts him in a position where he does not have the ability to avoid the crash, which puts him into a crash that he otherwise should not have been in, even if the car didn't see him. He saw the car, which means that he could have avoided the car, and he didn't. And because he didn't avoid the car, it's his fault that he's in the crash. That doesn't mean that the car is not at fault. It means that the biker is fundamentally the first person responsible for the biker being in the crash. Because if the biker was more responsible, more distance between the biker and the car, the biker could have stopped, cursed out the car. Yeah, the car was wrong for crossing 3 lanes of yellow lines, solid yellow lines. But the biker was trying to pass the car anyway, which makes the biker irresponsible. It doesn't matter if the law says that the car is going to be at fault too. What matters is that the owner of the motorcycle is now in a legal action because he did not slow down and stop. Doesn't matter who had the right of way. What matters is now you got to go to a chiropractor because you didn't slow down and stop. Now you got to miss days from work because you didn't slow down and stop. Now you've got to get an attorney because you didn't slow down and stop. Now you're going to have lifelong injuries because you didn't slow down and stop. It has nothing to do with the other guy. You put yourself in that situation. Now, when I come off of logic and reason, now the other person, oh, well, I didn't think about it like that. Of course not. Because your feelings were that motorcyclists are exempt from the law. Okay, chill. I don't understand how that works because you're telling me that Canada doesn't have laws, and that's not true. Canada has laws. If you are truly in Canada, you might not have the same laws in Canada that America has, but at the same time, you have to recognize that while you might not follow the law, nobody's willing to take action against you in certain situations, which is why you're able to get away with breaking the laws. But that doesn't mean that there aren't laws that apply to you. It just means that you're not willing to follow them. Now, dealing with unreasonable people takes a toll on you. Even if you handled it perfectly, the stress is still going to linger long after the situation. A lot of us can find ourselves rehearsing a situation that we got ourselves out of yesterday, a week ago, a month ago, because it really got to us and we didn't say and do all of the inappropriate things that we wanted to say and do, but we handled it perfectly and we got out of it. It lingers with you. So if you don't have a process for releasing this anger, it's going to build up, which makes your patience shorter. It makes your ability to handle conflict less effective. And it puts you into a position where the next situation that you're going to be in, you might not act appropriately. So an aftercare routine is a critical part of the playbook, how to decamp from a stressful situation. Physically discharge. Anger and stress creates physical energy that needs a release. Intense short burst exercises is one of the best ways to do this, which is why a lot of men go to the gym after work and they work out for an hour before they go home. Especially if they go out to the gym, they take a shower and then they come back to the house. They can, from the gym to the house, they should have less stress than what they would have had from the job to the gym, which prevents them from bringing their anger from work home to their wife. Think about that for a minute. A brisk walk, a run, or even just going into a private room and shaking out your hands and feet can help discharge the pent up adrenaline. I know some people say scream into a pillow, whatever you got to do, let it out. This helps complete the stress cycle and the confrontation that was initiating the stress. Journaling every event. If you write this down, it's going to be very powerful. This is a powerful tool for processing emotions because after difficult interactions, getting what's in your head out, whether you say it, whether you talk to yourself in a room, because that doesn't, I know people say, oh, well, if you talk to yourself, you're crazy. No, but if you say what you got to say, what's on your mind, you get the anger and frustration out. You vent the anger and frustration out, right? But if you write it down, you can still vent the frustration out. And some of us, new school, type it up on your computer into a draft email to yourself so that you don't accidentally send it to the person that you meant to send it to, right? Get all this stuff out. And you will find that when you type out everything that you had to say about the situation and you read what you wrote, you find that a whole weight is taken off your chest. You find a whole new level of inner peace. Because it doesn't matter if anybody else validated what you had to say. You were able to validate yourself. And you can find yourself at inner peace because you have acknowledged your feelings, recognized them, got them on paper. You can see it. And you feel better about functioning forward without that situation. You can actually delete it. You can save it in your archives, turn it into a book and use it later on. But the fact of the matter is that you're capable of taking your feelings out and putting it on paper. After a difficult interaction, write out some answers to a few simple questions like, what was the specific trigger that pissed you off? How did you feel in your body when this was going on? How did you react to the person when it happened? What part of the playbook did you use effectively and which parts do you need to work on? What will you do differently the next time you're in that type of situation? Because wow, On a micro level, every situation is different. On a macro level, there are different categories of situations that are similar to one another. While they're not exactly the same, they have a large majority of similarity there, right? This process moves the experience from the emotional part of your brain to the logical part, the narrative part, turning a frustrating event into valuable data that allows you to be a better negotiator in the future. Third thing you want to do is the trust debrief. Think about the incident with a trusted, heavy, level-headed friend or family member that can be incredibly validated. Meaning that you can talk to somebody about this. That doesn't always have to be your therapist, but therapist works when you can't trust your friends. And you articulate the issues and work out the scenario in your head, because the situation is resolved. So you don't need advice from them. You just need them to listen to your frustration. Right? The goal isn't just to vent, but to gain perspective. Explain the situation and your response and ask for their objective feedback. You're not looking for advice. It's like, well, what do you think about how I did it? This external validation helps counteract the self-doubt that can follow these encounters when you thought you could have done more, or you think you might have done too much. Conscious relaxation is always effective. After discharging the energy, guide your nervous system back to a state of calm. This could be a 10-minute meditation, listening to calming music, or taking a hot shower, going to a spa, going to a massage therapist. All good things. This is going to be the final step to telling your body that the threat is officially over and it is safe to stand down. Because a lot of the times when we finish with one heated conflict, we're still wired from the last conflict and we end up in another one. A lot of the time we have a gauntlet throughout our day. From the time we get up to the time we go to bed, we have a gauntlet of back-to-back conflicts that we're always on edge with. And we very rarely have enough time to decant from the last situation. Finally, you got to give yourselves credit. Staying composed and strategic while someone else is behaving badly is an incredibly difficult thing to do. The more outrageous and irresponsible and disrespectful that they behave, the more you want to match that vibe. That is the exact opposite of what you want to do. The more they make themselves look like a jackass, the more you want to make yourself look like a leader. Okay? As Martin Luther King said, don't respond. We want to show them who the true monsters are. Turn the other cheek. I know that most of us say, you hit me in the cheek, I'm going to hit you in your cheek. But two wrongs don't make a right. If I'm the only person getting hit in the cheek, then the assault is on you. If I'm the only person being mistreated in this situation, the inappropriate spotlight is on you. It is hard to not match negative with negative, but you are not supposed to add gasoline to the fire. You are supposed to throw salt on it and let it diminish. Okay? Acknowledge the effort that it took for you to maintain your composure. This reinforces the positive behavior and it builds your confidence for the next time. Everything that we've discussed so far are tactics for the moment. The ultimate strategy, the one that reduces anger before it even starts, is the fundamental shift in your expectations. A huge portion of our frustration comes from the gap between how we believe people should act and how they actually are acting in the moment. You believe people should be reasonable and respectful when they aren't, and you're shocked and angered that they're not. We have people come onto the show and they troll the podcast and say disrespectful things, and very few times do I even break my communication with you as I block them off the show. The master level move is to stop negotiating with reality. If a person has a repeated pattern of being unreasonable, Expecting them to be unreasonable the next time is a recipe for guaranteed frustration. As some psychological advice suggests, it is vital to give up the hope that they will one day become the person you wish they'd be. If the internet is full of people who are not going to be positive, I should not expect everyone that comments to be positive. The people who come and are not positive, I expect to block. I do not allow myself to get angry and frustrated by the non-positive comments. If we're socializing and interacting with people in person and someone wants to comment negatively on my outfit, I don't expect everybody to give me a positive comment about my outfit. But I also recognize that if too many negative comments come out in a short period of time about my outfit, I'm going to relocate away from those comments because these people do not value my presence. Not because I'm not wearing a socially acceptable outfit, right? The more effective mindset is going to be this: expect the pattern that you have evidence for. Your friend is an asshole, you can't expect them to be a saint. Your friend is a kleptomaniac, you can't expect them not to be a thief. Your girlfriend is unreasonable and overly emotional, you cannot expect her to behave with logic and reason. If you're about to talk to someone who's been irrational in the last 5 conversations, you expect them to be irrational again. This isn't pessimism, it's a strategic preparation, a predisposed disposition of behavior. When you expect the pattern, you are no longer shocked by the pattern, which prevents you from having this overwhelming outrage. You are less likely to have the initial explosive anger response and retaliate irresponsibly. Their irrationality is no longer a surprising personal attack to you. It's just a predicted data point that you were waiting for. It's the signal that it's time to open your playbook. When you stop trying to make it reasonable, you are free to focus on being effective. This is going to be the final and most powerful play in the book. So the next time that you find yourself standing in front of the human brick wall, the next time that you feel that hot anger rising, remember that you have a choice, that you have a playbook, and I gave it to you. It starts with core principles. You are there to win the situation, achieve the goal that you came here for, not win an argument. You want to use that first 10 seconds to run the de-escalation toolkit on yourself, the strategic pause, the micro body reset, the 4 to 6 breaths, and the internal monologue. You respond next with not reflux, but with strategy, using calm I statements or the powerful strategic silence. You know when to disengage to preserve your energy for battles that matter more than this one. You understand the deeper drivers of your own anger. You have unorthodox tools to create mental distance, and you have a non-negotiable routine to release the stress and learn from every encounter. Most importantly, you've rewired your expectations. You no longer crash against the rocks of their irrationality. You see it coming, and you use it as your cue to open your playbook and execute your strategies. You cannot control how other people behave, so stop trying. But you can always control your response to their behavior. And that's going to be where the true power is going to lie. Now, if this playbook was helpful for you and you want to keep building your arsenal for strategies and communications and personal effectiveness, make sure, if you haven't done so over the last few hours, hit that subscription button, smash those notification buttons for the show. And every time you come to the show, you want to drive home those reaction buttons so that the algorithm knows that you guys are enjoying what I'm giving you guys. And then if you're on TikTok, take the time to go over to YouTube and go and look at that membership and get all of the walkthroughs that we provide to you guys, because we have so much stuff in our community that you guys can utilize. Years of archived information that you never knew existed, that is common knowledge, that it is not all too commonly discussed and utilized in our day-to-day operations. And like I asked you guys yesterday, if you think, how many times in your network have you had these types of conversations with the people that you affiliate with the most? More often than not, you guys talk about your week, your year, your success, what pisses you off, how people screwed up, conspiracies against the world, no accountability. Just, I don't like the way life is going. Or I just had something good happen to me. But never, let's plan to live life better. How do we get through life more effectively? We don't have those discussions with the people that we know. We just wing it. And I'm trying to tell you guys, it's time for us to put a stop to that. Whatever we used to do in 2024 that wasn't working in 2025 that you're still doing in 2026, you need to cut that shit out. And right now here in August, as we're halfway through August, you need to start trying to find ways in 2026 to make 2027 better. If it wasn't working for you last year, you need to start rethinking your position so that it can start working for you next year. And I tell you guys every night, y'all need to find the things that are inside of your control in your life and proactively put forth effort to change that. And then navigate around the things that are outside of your control. If you don't like something, but you could do something about it, do something about it. Whether it is getting it done yourself instead of relying on somebody else, removing somebody from your life that's a burden and an obstacle, not an asset. Whatever it is, pay things in advance instead of paying it on time. Whatever it is, budget and build savings instead of living check to check. Tell your friends no instead of always borrowing or loaning money to them. Change it, whatever it is. Stop going places with people that make you look bad. Instead of asking them not to embarrass you while you're out there, just don't go anymore. Stop asking people to respect you and start showing them that I'm not going to be in a place where I'm not respected. Those are things that you can change. And then navigate around the things that are outside of your control. Now, as we wrap things up, I'm going to start off by saying, ladies, as long as the situation doesn't make sense, I'm going to keep asking you ladies to make it make sense. So ladies, please make it make sense. I want y'all to remember, especially for those of you that's watching us on TikTok, that we are here every night of the week. We typically start off around 11:30, 11:45 Eastern Standard Time, but we're here every night of the week. Fellas, I give you this information to make you guys higher value men, not just by improving your financial life, but also by improving your decision-making skills. And ladies, while this is a male-driven podcast from a male's perspective, you can take all the information I gave you and make yourselves higher value individuals as well. I tell everybody to focus on your 20 or 30-year plan. But ladies, if y'all reverse y'all plan to what you got to do today, proactively start accomplishing that plan, then find the right suitor that has the right personality and characteristics, drive, ambition, characteristics, motivation, admiration, and their integrity, the ability to accomplish their own goals. See what those goals are and see how their goals mesh well with your goals. And y'all got to look at details of y'all goals, not just I want to be happy, I want to be healthy, I want to be rich. Those are byproducts of your goal. You know, I want to have an $80,000 a year lifestyle or an $80,000 a year income to cover my $60,000 a year lifestyle so that I can travel the world 3 times a year. That's some details which would make you happy, where all my bills are paid so I don't have the financial stress. I got money set aside so that I don't have to worry about my health. That's plans, right? I want to live in California. That's just a wish. How the fuck are you going to accomplish that? Then you have to see if your partner's got similar goals, because if you want to live your life in your current city or state and your partner wants to go to Tahiti, y'all don't have matching goals. If one of you wants to live here and the other one wants to move to another state, y'all don't have matching goals. So you have to make sure that your long-term satisfaction goals blend well with one another. If one of you wants to be a doctor and the other one wants to own a business, but y'all are going to do it in the same city, y'all can probably accomplish that together. But if one of you wants to be a small business owner and the other one wants to go on tour with their band, that relationship isn't going to last. One of you wants to be a trucker and the other one wants to be a small business owner. That relationship isn't really going to last. You're going to spend more time apart than you are together. Arguments in those types of relationships are going to be heavier because after you fight, you're not going to see each other for months. Reconciliation is harder when you don't see each other every day. So you got to make sure that those goals are able to blend together. They don't have to be the exact same goals. You don't both have to go into the medical field. But if one of you is a teacher and the other one's a scientist, at least you're living in the same area where y'all can interact with each other every day. Right? Then, while you guys are working on your long-term satisfaction goals, make sure that you're not dealing with short-term gratification goals, okay? Because short-term gratification goals sabotages your ability to be successful in the future. You know, going to your next Drake concert could take away a lot of potential investment opportunities towards your retirement. I'm not saying give up on every good moment that you have in your life, but I'm saying that you got to budget for your future instead of entertaining yourself today. Then I tell you guys on a regular basis that two people can make it to $1 million faster than one, but it only works if you both have similar financial values. So it is more important for you to be able to piece together how you're going to do this. And if someone is going to be there with you, how are you going to do it and sustain that positive relationship at the same time? Because work-life balance requires you to chase your dreams on your job, but still be present for your relationship. If you're married to the job where you have little to no time for your relationship, it doesn't matter how good of a person you are abandoning your relationship. So you don't want to get into a relationship when your job has 90% of your attention. Doesn't matter what your job is. Now, that's all I got for you guys for tonight. I'm going to start by saying thank you guys. Special shout out to Steven, Michael, FX Trader, Joe Jack, Aztec, Unc Andy. I appreciate you guys for coming to tonight's show. OG Kicks. I appreciate you guys. These are the guys that are here on a regular basis on the YouTube side of things. And then I want to thank you guys for coming to This and That. I'm your host, Xander, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. And I will see you guys tomorrow night.
My network is my net worth. Choose your company wise. Surround yourself with eagles, not with sheep in disguise. Every interaction is a reflection of my brand. Quality over quantity, that's my personal command. I'm not landing on higher ground where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds, raising the bar, breaking ground. Bye.